No mai, haere mai. Welcome to this ordinary meeting of Nelson City Council on Thursday the 10th of August. I'll ask that you all stand for the opening prayer.
Almighty God, sovereign in all things, bless this city and its people. Guide us in local government each day that our decisions may be wise and just, and magnify your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Welcome, Council, and welcome to Linda, who's here from the Nelson Youth Council. Great to have you at our meeting. And Finn, unfortunately, who has got the flu, I think. Poor old Finn. I think he was going to be here today. It was Finn, wasn't it? Yes, it was Finn. Yes, so hopefully he'll get better. I also have apologies. I have an apology from Councillor Fulton for lateness and needing to leave in the late morning, so no doubt she'll be here at some point. Are there any other apologies? I think everybody else is here. Would someone be prepared to accept Councillor Fulton's apology? Councillor Walker, Councillor Courtney. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now, confirmation of the order of business. As normal, we are being live streamed. Reminder to use your microphones to turn them on and off. And we have a few little items that I'll speak to in the Mayor's report, just some updates on some successes and a few other things that I want to cover off. So I'll deal with those. We're going to have Ruben Peterson joining us, who's of Opus, and he'll be here when we get to the Nelson Plan Designations paper. So I'm not sure that Ruben's with us yet, but he'll no doubt appear at the right time. He's probably watching us on live streaming. Hello, Ruben. You'll be able to see when we get into your item. And then we had an item in relation to the Internal Audit Report, which is item, I'm going to put these glasses on, 19.4, the Annual Audit Report. Chief Executive has advised me that the draft Annual Audit Plan requires some further work, and there's been some discussion with the Chair of the Audit Risk and Finance Committee and members, and they're quite comfortable with that. So in accordance with our Standing Order 9.9, that item is withdrawn from the agenda and no resolution is required, so I'm just letting you know about that now. Are there any other matters of business that you would like me to be aware of before I get underway? Councillor
Just
Noonan.
a clarification, what was that number you just quoted? I thought you said 19.4.
Oh, it's changed since my run sheet was produced.
20.4.
20.4.
Thank
Okay,
you.
obviously another item has slipped in there. Thank you. All right, so has everybody got their papers? You should have some attachments today as well. Everyone's got those. Excellent. In that case, I think we're probably ready to go. Just a reminder, councillors, about keeping your interest register up to date, and if there's any items during the day as we move along that where you've got a conflict, please just signal so that we can record that in the minutes and make sure all our decision making is done in a appropriate governance manner. Anybody need to go at any point in time? Just so in terms of taking the apology, as now as the point as chair that I need to make sure we've recorded those if you're going to be stepping out. You're here for the day. Okay, well, I've done an assessment of the agenda, and I've had discussion with David, our Chief Executive, and we think that this really shouldn't take beyond lunchtime. That there is, this is a piece of work that we should be able to get concluded. If we haven't quite finished the public excluded part, then we could take lunch and come back for that, but I really don't expect us to be here any later than 1 o'clock, 1:15. Anyone got a different view about that? I think we're quite capable of transacting what we've got to do in that period of time. Thank you. Excellent. All right, let's get underway. So, public forum today. Nobody for public forum? Nope. No, I haven't been advised of anybody, but if there's anybody there who's got a burning issue they want to talk to us about. No, excellent. Right, confirmation of minutes, pages 18 through 21 on the agenda. Any corrections or additions that you wish to make to the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of the 14th of June? Moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Courtney. Thank you both. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Moving on to the minutes of the meeting of the 22nd of June. You'll find those minutes on pages 22 through 50. Any corrections or additions? Councillor McGurk, you've got a moved, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Delberg, thank you very much. No questions, no debate. In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we're going to go to item 6, which is the status report, pages 51 through 59 of your agenda. And we'll take those page by page, starting on page 52. Any questions in relation to the items on page 52? I do have just one follow-up. I'll go first. Mr. Laverdis, we did have a discussion about this date with the Environment Court, and I was wondering if our legal counsel had managed to follow up with the registrar to see whether we could actually get a date scheduled. How did we go with that?
So through the chair, a date hasn't been finalised yet, but our legal counsel is talking with the registrar, but we haven't got a final date yet.
Thank you. All right, well hopefully that can happen soon, because Principal Judge Newhook has told me on numerous occasions how they're working so fast in the court, and I would have thought that before the end of the year might be considered reasonable. Councillor Noonan.
That was what I was
All
going
right.
to ask.
Okay,
Thank you.
excellent. Page 53. Any questions? Councillor Laurie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm thrilled to see in the lower part of the table the news about the Green Meadows Centre Cafe, and I'm just wondering if there's going to be any public announcements about what's been happening there. I'm not aware of any media releases on the details about the people who've taken the lease and what they're doing, things like that. Has that
Right,
been
I'll
public?
direct that to the Chair of the Community Services Committee, who I'm sure will
Well, that's been
have
put
that all
on the
in
spot,
hand.
isn't it? We're working away on some matters at the moment that will be coming to community services, and the build itself is progressing as it should be. I checked yesterday, so it'll come to community services, and it'll have to be in public excluding because it'll be regarding leases, so it'll be not public.
Right, thank you very much.
Just
Excellent.
sorry, Madam Mayor, just to so I'm clear. What I'm
Follow-up
saying
question
is,
from Councillor Laurie.
yeah. So what I'm saying is, this is a step for the community centre, which is great. That it would be great for people to know about. It shouldn't just be, in my opinion, a small entry on a status report. I think there's been a fair bit of interest in whether or not we were going to have a cafe at the community centre. So it seems to me, seems to me appropriate that we make some announcement on that, not just have a public excluded meeting in community services.
Well, with due respect, Councillor Laurie, I don't think you need to tell Councillor Noonan how to suck eggs. I think she'll have it in hand, but what she won't be doing is making any announcements for things that are in public excluded. But of course, it's a great step forward. The progress is going really well, and we are into celebrating our successes. So when we're ready to do that, I'm sure Councillor Noonan will lead that process. I've got absolute confidence in her. Right, on page, anything else in 53? Page 54.
Yes, page 54. On page 54, the tiny, what are they called, the tiny Nelson Theatre. It seems to be dragging on an awful lot. I'm just wondering if we can get an indication that it's still positive that it might happen for the coming summer season, perhaps. But it's a long time since it started.
Miss MacDonald, I think it's covered off that there's a report coming on the 21st. We'll see if Miss MacDonald's got anything.
$20,000 sitting there.
Yes, through the Mayor, it's correct that money was not used in the financial year. It was allocated, and that's due to delays with the development that the theatre was going to go into. So they've asked us to reconsider what can be done within this financial year, and staff will be bringing a report to the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor, no, Councillor Courtney,
That
same
was
question.
my question.
Thank you. Where are we now? Are we on to page 55? Anything for 55? Councillor McGurk?
Yeah, just see that the comments, its deliberations are set down for the 5th of September. I understand their diary has been updated to the 23rd of August.
Yes, it has been. Well spotted, thank you very much. So no, when I came back from my leave, I did have a discussion with David, and this matter really needs to get in front of us as quickly as possible. So the administration advisors and the officers have worked to get that forward on the 23rd, so thank you for that effort. David, do you want to add something there?
Effectively, we swapped it with deliberations on the freedom camping to just bring this one forward.
Okay. Page 56.
Just before we move on, just bearing in mind that I think the large amount of public interest in this matter is how widely known is the change of date? Because I have seen some commentary out there that they're expecting quite a crowd here on the 5th of September to watch us deliberate.
Oh, well, that'll be good. I'll have to reschedule. I'm sure that everyone will have that in hand. We just managed to get that sorted in the last sort of 48 hours, so I got confirmation yesterday that it was going to the 23rd, and Mr. Shattuck's been advised, so we're all good on that. Now, 2056.
Can I just comment on that,
Oh, yes,
please? Thank you. It would make some sense to me that we did them both at the same time. There's a lot of confusion in some minds in the public, even yesterday at the hearings. It's just a thought that I had.
I'll go to David. David, thoughts on that?
Yeah, my only thoughts are I'm not 100% sure how long it's going to take versus the Freedom Camping one, which has got some issues with it that are resolvable, but just how long is it going to take? It might be best actually just to keep these two dates separate. I hear what you're saying, but yeah. Yeah, I know.
All right, we'll have a think about that, but I'm just thinking that might be stretching us to the point where people have expectations that we aren't able to meet. And I think we're better off to actually deliver what we say we're going to do. Page 56. You'll just note that I was trying to get that governance statement workshop in, but it's just not going to be possible with the other things that we've been having to work on. So it'll have to go out to the last quarter of this calendar year. Page 57. 58.
58.
Councillor Laurie.
So it says here that with regards to the Modellers Pond, that Modellers Society funding application to Lotteries Commission has been unsuccessful. I think I've heard somewhere that might be the group may be reapplying. Is there any truth to that? And also it says project group assessing options. What options do we have at this stage?
Mr. Levertus, welcome.
Through the chair, so there were two questions there. The first one was about the grant. We are working. We have a little working group, and we are working collaboratively to figure out the next steps in terms of what applications are made and who actually makes that. In all probability, it'll be the Nelson City Council. If we do make an application, it'll be under our name. So that's the first question. In terms of the second question, in terms of project group assessing options, where the options are, it's probably an incorrect word there, but it's it's probably an incorrect word there. What we are doing is finalising the design, finalising the schedule, looking at cost optimisation and those sorts of things. Yes.
Through the chair, is the council going to reapply to the Lotteries Commission for the funding on the Modellers Society's behalf?
We may well still do that.
Right.
Through the chair.
And through the chair, do we need that money to be able to complete the project with the $1.2 million of ratepayers' money?
We are working collaboratively, and yes, every little bit that we can get from a range of sources will be assisting us in making that project a reality.
And so my last question through the chair is: do we still think it's going to cost $1.2 million?
At this moment in time, the detailed cost estimate is slightly above that, but we are busy working on what that actually means in terms of final costs.
Thank you.
Councillor Ackland.
Just thank you, through you, just following up on those questions. Is it, I'm not clear on the timeline or time frame around this. Is there any clarity on that?
In terms of the time frame, so through the chair, we are busy working. We are meeting every 2 weeks with this working party, and we are trying to refine it. And one of the tasks that we need to do is to develop that program. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly sitting here what that program is, because we are still busy ascertaining a number of things that will determine where that program fits in terms of finalising the design, etc. Yeah.
Just a supplementary question through you. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just in terms of, is the group working to targets in terms of timeframes, i.e. this financial year, next financial year, in that respect, in terms of a build state, or at least turning the first sod? And secondly, in terms of the group, are they reporting back to council at some stage? Just tell me those two things.
So the first question, yes, the intention. So the current resolution, the current work program through the chair is for us to be able to move this project to some form of finality, and that's in terms of commencing on site. I don't, as I said, I don't know the process on that. And in terms of reporting back to council, there may be a requirement that we do report back the status of that once we know exactly where we're going back to council. Yes.
Thank you. All right. Right, any other questions on, I've skipped ahead on my pages, apologies. Any other questions on page 58? Nope, 59 is just a wrap up. All right, will somebody care to move that we receive the status report? I'm happy to do that, seconded by Councillor Barker. Any debate? In that case, I will put that we receive the status report. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And then we will now move on to the Mayor's report, and I'm just going to cover a few things off and going through the Mayor's report. The first thing I want to do, say to you, is I have thoroughly enjoyed where we're getting to as council, and I just want to say to you, there was a phrase that I learnt yesterday, and I'm not going to potentially be very good at this, I'm just going to find it on my papers. Where's it gone? Here it is. Te ihi, te wehi, te wana. And do you know what that means? I thought it was a fabulous phrase. That's a phrase that describes that sense of exclamation of excitement, that excitement that you have when the hairs go up on the back of your neck. And that's what it feels. It's a great phrase. And I have to say, I've come back to Nelson, I'm going, that's exactly how I feel about where we are at the moment. There is a real energy in lots of the sectors that I've been meeting with. I've had the Chamber of Commerce in to see me, who tell me that business confidence surveys were very high in the last 6 months. They are remaining very high. I've had some incredibly exciting projects coming through to us, both in the arts sector, in the commercial sector, and I think environmentally we have just shown this week how well this region can perform, and I want to acknowledge the success of our fantastic Top of the South Biosecurity Partnership, who were awarded, and I don't know if we've got an image there, Linda, have we got an image of our team? They did so well. Here they are, look at our lovely team. Here they are in Wellington, so off they went to Parliament on the Wednesday last week, and I am pleased to say that we won the highly commended award in the government section for the Top of the South Biosecurity Partnership. This is something that's a little bit dear to my heart, having been involved in setting this up several years ago, and it's I think it's a real success. The Top of the South Biosecurity Partnership includes Nelson City Council, Tasman District Council, Marlborough District Council, Ministry of Primary Industries, along with Tangata Whenua, Department of Conservation, Aquaculture and port companies. And you know how I feel about working in partnership with the community, so well done. The partnership manages risks and of pests and diseases in our marine environment. We were in esteemed company, I have to say, for these awards, and of course the Supreme Award, which we achieved the highly commended for that in that section for partnership, but the Supreme Award, of course, went to the Department of Conservation for the Great White Butterfly Eradication Program in Nelson, which won the top government section as well. And I have to say that, I mean, that is just world class. That was the first, I think the first time, and Ms. Barton will, if she's here, or some wise person will correct me, but I think that's the first successful eradication in terms of an incursion. It was just absolutely amazing. So brilliant for our region, and I also want to note that the award for the Māori award was really great to see that Glenys Payne was there with her initiative. She chairs Te Tira Whakamataki, which is the Māori Biodiversity Network across New Zealand. So well done, Top of the South. It's just fantastic. So here we are really achieving at I think at a world-class record. I just go because New Zealand's got to be world-class on its own. So if you clears at the top of New Zealand, you're really world-class. So well done to the team. It's really impressive. The other thing I want to say to you is, and I just want to say this, don't want to embarrass our acting chief executive, but David, we're thoroughly enjoying working with you. Absolute breath of fresh air. There's an energy and a positivity around the council table and in the organisation and out in the community. One of the things that David and I have talked about quite a lot already and are already working on some initiative is connecting our council more closely to the community and working alongside, just as we've discussed here, partnering with other agencies around Nelson. And I have to say there is some extremely positive work that is coming forward to complement the direction that we're taking on the city amenity bylaw. I have had reached out with David's support to the New Zealand Police, to Ministry of Social Development, to the DHB and others to say we're a caring community, we're here to work together to support our people, and they're absolutely behind that. Many of you will recall that we have a group called Talking Heads, and appears that Nelson City Council may have been a little bit disengaged from that over the last while. David's really ready there to lead that process and get us re-engaged, and I'm thrilled about that, so thank you. Thank you. I feel like we've loaded you up with a heap of tasks for your brief stint here, but I'm sure that hopefully you're relishing the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, moving on to the substance within the Mayor's report, I want to just deal with the, as we're talking Chief Executive matters at the moment, and I suppose the first thing I should do is actually move to receive my report, and in doing that I'll also move the next clause around the membership of the Chief Executive recruitment group, so I get a seconder for that. We can just make sure that's been moved and seconded. Thank you, Councillor Rutledge. Now, speaking to the item in terms of the recommendation, and then I'll deal with that, and then we'll deal with the other items, because I'm going to get Linda to say a few words as well, because there's a matter in here that concerns Linda. Just in terms of that process, I've always, when I'm bringing things to council, I take the approach that I always talk to the person concerned when I'm looking at changes. So I've talked with Councillor Ackland before the agenda went out, and subsequently, and I think Councillor Ackland, he's engaged through this, and he's come back to you as a councillor and suggested that perhaps the group could be expanded, and I just want to talk to you about that point. So I have the task of leading one of the most important processes that we undertake as a council, if not the most important task that we take as a council. And the recruitment of our chief executive is a decision that is going to transcend our term. These are 5-year appointments, so it's a very, very big decision, and I put a lot of effort and a lot of thought into leading that process to make sure that we get the best outcome for the people of Nelson and for a very dedicated group of staff who I respect extremely highly. What I'm asking you to do is to trust me and my judgment and our professional advisors' judgment as we work through this process and the appointments process. So we're now into that stage where we start the interviewing. And I know Councillor Ackland has asked you and suggested, and I thank you for that, because I don't like, it's good to do these things before meetings, to expect to whether the group could be expanded further to allow Councillor Ackland to remain in that group. But I have discussed that with the group's professional advisors, so we have a recruitment firm who are engaged to give us advice in terms of the size of the group, and the advisors, talking with the advisor, already signalled to us that 6 is quite a big interview panel. And you think about that for those of you who have been through interview processes, that, and remember at this stage we're still at the long list of candidates. We're not down to the finals yet, so when they get to the finals, then you all get to interview them. Boy, that's a scary interview for the final candidates, isn't it, to come in here to do that. So you don't want to do that to a really long list. So I've talked through that process, and our advisors are still of the view that you really don't want too crowded a room. Okay, that's their view. You don't want to. If council said no, we want to push the group out and be bigger, look, he'll work with that. But his advice is that actually, if we're talking about the best process that we can be doing, we don't really want a too crowded room. And for those of you who've been through these high-level interviews, you'll know why. That is quite a process for the interviewers and for the interviewee. So what I have is I have a recommendation to you that we keep the number at 6. I would like Councillor Courtney to join that group. I want to remind Council that candidates have choices. We'll put it this way, we only want candidates who have got choices. That's what we want. We want candidates who have got choices about where they work and where they're employed. And that's the calibre of candidate we're after. And we want them to choose Nelson. We want the best candidate to choose Nelson. So I always think when you're interviewing, it's a two-way process. No, we're interviewing them and they're interviewing us. That's what we're doing. So I have to, in leading this process, promote to you the best process, and that was what I need here. Is I need a cohesive, I need a positive group with an experience at the level that we have here in terms of chief executive processes and recruitment processes and employment. And in doing that, I want to thank Councillor Ackland for his contribution through the stages we've got to, but for this stage, as we go into the interview stage, I would value having Councillor Courtney come and join us. I think he's got a lot of skills to bring to the group. So that's my request to you, and hopefully you're able to support that. I'm happy to take questions, and I'm happy to then enter into debate. So you can do questions and debate if you want to.
Sounds good. So, Madam Mayor, I hear what you're saying, but I still don't understand why Councillor Ackland is being asked to leave the group. Why specifically Councillor Ackland? There are other people in that group. If it's a matter of size and there's some need for Councillor Courtney to be on the group, I'm not sure why Councillor Ackland has been singled out. And I'd like you to explain that, please.
What I do when I'm putting the group together, and there's no singling out Councillor Courtney, Councillor Laurie, what I have to do is assess the skills and experience of the people that are sitting here at Council whenever I'm thinking about putting forward committees or other groups to do the best that we can for the city. And the other members of the group are very experienced in chief executive employment recruiting. They have strong experience, and so I want them there, I need them there.
So,
any further questions?
no, I'll wait for debate.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Ackland.
I hear that too, and this is the discussion we had, as I was asking why has it changed, because as a member of the Chief Executive Employment Committee, like the other members, the other 4 members of the Chief Executive Employment Committee, I was part of the recruitment process, which makes sense because ultimately the Employment Committee is going to be the one that's carrying out the employment supervision, if you like, of that person who's recruited. So what's changed though, because I was on that committee to begin with, and I'm just interested in the change. I understand what you're saying about experience, but then surely that should have been noted at the beginning, Madam Mayor, and I'm just querying that.
Look, Councillor Ackland, I probably anticipated that you had, I just assumed that you would have had a little bit more experience in recruitment processes, but this is not. I don't want to get into a situation of dissecting your CV or anybody else's CV, and what I have to do is use the talents that are here. But I would say to you, there is a very different approach, and those of you who've been involved in these processes know that the recruitment interview process is extremely different to the supervision of an employment contract. Anybody else wish to ask questions? In that case, we're into the debate. Anyone wish to speak to the debate? And why, just for noting, for Linda, you're right if I continue with the rest of the Mayor's report after we move and do this, aren't you? Because there's items still to do. Yes, and standing orders, fabulous. Councillor Laurie.
Thank you. So, as you have said, Madam Mayor, this is a really, really important job that this group has. I am still not entirely convinced that you've given me, anyway, enough of a reason to drop Councillor Ackland from the group. I've got nothing against Councillor Courtney at all, but Councillor Ackland has experience in the whole business of employment law. I would have thought that was helpful to have someone on the group with that background. Councillor Ackland has an inquiring mind, and most importantly of all, he asks the tough questions. And I want someone on that group who has those skills and abilities. I also am concerned when I look at the makeup of the group that you're proposing, that we have a number of people who all share a very similar world view. And I think for this job, we need a diversity of opinion to really test out all the applicants to get us a shortlist that serves the city to the best, ability of the group. So I have some real concerns about what we're doing here, and I'd like to see Councillor Ackland remain on the group. And perhaps if the consultants say, or the advisors say, one extra is too many, we might just ignore that advice. I don't see that as being the end of the world.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McGurk.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think some of the points that I was going to raise have already been covered by Councillor Laurie. I think the purpose of a recruitment committee is to probably test and probe and ask those difficult questions and these skills that I think Councillor Ackland does bring to the table. And I think that's served serves the organisation and the city well when those questions, those difficult questions are asked and probed. I worry that if we take a rather homogenous view, is that we will probably, there may be a blind spot that we don't see. So I like a diversity of view around the tables, and I'm trusting the committee to do that on my behalf, because I've got no idea of who the applicants are, where we are in the process, and things like that. So I have a huge amount of trust in that committee to do the right job. So I would appreciate a diversity of views. The difficult questions can be asked. The blind spots can be covered off. So that's really all I wish to say about it. And I really question, the wisdom of actually sort of changing at this stage. We've embarked on a process, and I think it's probably in everyone's best interest if we can have a continuity of membership throughout the whole process, as people coming in and dropping off. Can perhaps have a destabilising effect. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Is anyone else wish to speak? And otherwise I'll use my right to reply. Councillor Delberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I'm comfortable with your request as chair of the group. You're totally right that when you're interviewing extremely talented people, they have got choices, and that's the type that we actually want. And your comment about if we don't get the questions all right with that group we've got, it's quite diverse. Of course, the final 2 or 3 will be sitting in front of everybody, probably 2, so everyone will have a chance to ask those questions. If you, Councillor Laurie and McGurk's questions, if we do miss something, then someone else will have a chance to say. And the other thing about it really is that recruitment group needs to be focused as a team effort here on how you actually approach the person, because you actually might be okay to ask the tough questions, but you're also trying to encourage them to be part of our team, because at the end of after all the interviewing, that person is going to work for us. And if one of the jobs I had when I came in here as the councillor, and you'll be the same, is to get the CE's job correct for ourselves and down. That's the next 5 years. That's probably one of the priorities. And if we have to mix and match or do something to get the outcome, that is the outcome we need for both ourselves here and also for our city, and also the communication we need to be going. So myself, I'm going to support that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. We've had 2 speakers against and 1 for. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Ackland.
Thank you. This is actually kind of embarrassing, really, I think, for the city, that we're sitting here debating the membership on a working group rather than actually concentrating on really important issues. The working group is a de facto group subsidiary, in my view, to the Chief Executive Employment Committee, and it was formed by council without clear terms of reference, but it's been formed by council, and it's council's decision on the membership. Now, I know that the Mayor, as chair of a meeting, has the power to recommend revocation or alteration of resolutions, existing resolutions of council. Ordinarily, the normal situation would be you'd need a notice of motion with 5 people in support. And I just note that because I'm still unclear exactly why this has come about. So I've talked about this with the Mayor, and I've asked, why has there been this change? What's changed to precipitate the need for this? And she's told me there's reasons, same reasons that she's given today, but I still don't understand them, because no one else, and look, I'm under no illusion that this is going to pass. We are divided council at this stage, and I know the Mayor has a majority, and I'm under no illusion that this will fly through. But I ask, why are you voting that way when none of you have talked to me about this? And indeed, the group itself hasn't considered this. The Mayor says the group has taken advice. I'm on that group. I haven't seen any of that advice. The Mayor said this is a recommendation this has come up from the group. The group wishes to advance this. I'm part of that group. I haven't been part of any discussion like that. I'm under no doubt that there's probably emails going between others, telephone calls going between others, but I am part of that group, and I haven't been part of those discussions. Indeed, if there was advice coming saying that the numbers were too swollen, and I agree with Councillor Laurie, I think if Councillor Courtney wanted to be part of that group, which you have from the beginning, I think that could well be an advantage to have his experience from being an employer in the past. But I haven't heard the advice of why the numbers are a problem, and I'd like to test that advice, for instance, ask questions about that advice, but I haven't had that advice, so I'm just having to rely on the Mayor's conversations with the consultant. I want to know why this has changed. Is it because I've been asking difficult questions around the way that this group has been formed in terms of having no terms of reference and no clear reporting line back to council, that there's decisions being made on recruitment and indeed on budget setting and decisions of that kind? Or is it just because of the general publicity and tension around council at this stage? Is that why? Is it just personal politics in a puerile way? And
I'm sorry, Councillor Eklund, are you suggesting that it is such?
I'm asking questions.
Because I would have to ask you to. That would be a disrespectful comment about your colleagues, and I'd have to ask you to withdraw it.
Well, no, I was putting a question, Madam
Oh,
Mayor.
you're putting a question. You're just thinking out loud. Okay.
This
fine.
is part of debate, Madam Mayor, and I'm debating the
okay.
issue and
You're
I'm
thinking
expressing the
outside.
debate.
That's all right. You're thinking out loud.
But I guess you could raise a point of order, Madam Mayor, and then rule on your own point of order. The question I'm putting is that it does seem like we're a really divided council, but it's at these times that we have to make decisions in the best interests of the city. And I don't think that the interests of the city are being advanced by this, because I think I have very relevant skills, and indeed it seems pretty odd to have someone who's on the Chief Executive Employment Committee who wouldn't be involved in the recruitment process throughout. I think in the conversation I had with the Mayor on Thursday last week that she sort of hinted to me that, or I may have this wrong, Madam Mayor, you can clarify in your reply, but I had the impression that indeed there might be something coming in terms of the recruitment Chief Executive Employment Committee as well in the future, so I'll wait and see what happens there. For me personally, it makes no difference whether I'm on this group or not. For me personally, it means I have one less commitment that I have to attend to at council. But is it in the best interests of the city that I'm not there? And if I stand back and look at the skills that I bring, I don't think it is in the best interests of the city. And none of you, when I've invited a discussion indeed with Councillor Dalberg this morning, none of you have approached me to ask me any of those questions, and yet there's going to be a vote in this way. So I think this, and I do believe, and this is my point of debate, is I believe this is really petty personal politics, and it's puerile.
I think they might cross the line.
Can I suggest an amendment? Can I suggest an
Finished,
amendment?
Councillor? You finished, Councillor Eklund, because that's probably a good 5 minutes.
Madam Mayor, could I suggest an amendment?
Right, we've got a speaking order, and I've got Councillor Barker who was next, but Councillor Laurie's signalling you're giving notice of an amendment.
Yes. Can I put that up now?
Oh, yes, if you'd like to.
Thank you very much. I'd like to suggest that the second paragraph in the recommendation is changed to amends the membership of the Chief Executive Recruitment Group by adding Councillor Mel Courtney.
Okay, I think we understand that. Councillor Barker, do you want to speak to the amendment, or do you want to wait to speak to the substantive motion?
I'll speak to the amendment.
Thank you. Just microphone.
Speaking to the amendment will be the same as speaking to the motion when it gets there.
Oh, sorry, do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder? Councillor McGurk seconding.
Okay. I have been around this council for a long time, and at the beginning of this long time, I worked with Councillor Courtney, and I've known him for a long time, and I've been involved with him in the things that he's done when he's been not on council. And I just want to say that I believe his experience, his knowledge and his skills are going to be so good for this committee, and I really do support his inclusion onto the committee. And I also have confidence in your judgment, Your Worship, in looking at this, and I think the points you've raised are valid about the total number of membership, and I will not be supporting this amendment.
Look, I'm just going to speak briefly to the amendment. It might just reduce my right to reply at the end. Few things. This group is not subsidiary to the Chief Executive Employment Committee. This group has a very different function, completely different function actually. This is a group where I have to think very carefully, as I've said, how we approach the employment interview process. And it has to be, yes, an inquiring process, but it's not an inquisitorial process. It's certainly not a cross-examination. And it's a process where I have had to work through as we get to this stage. And that's partly when you start to look at who we're interviewing, all the things that come into that, the skills we're going to need, the skills that are at the table. And my views remain the same, based on good advice, that I think any more than six will be crowding the room. I want to have a group of people who I believe are going to be able to ask the inquiring questions in a way that will draw out the talents and skills of the people who are at the table, make them feel comfortable with us and our process, and I believe that that will be the right group for this stage. And of course, one of the real values of doing this is that being able to bring somebody in at this stage, and I think this is part of a good process, is that you don't just get stuck in your ways and not be prepared to be adaptive and thoughtful at every stage. At every stage I'm wanting to deliver to you the best process that I can. And I think that's a good thing. And what the good thing will be is that then we'll come round again, and Councillor Ackland does have some knowledge of who the candidates are, and he'll be able to really do almost like a second round for us, which will be helpful when it comes to council. Of course, all of you will have the opportunity to go through that process. So there's no blind spots. There's no puerile nature of this. I find that an unusual word. And there's certainly no, I would also say, I disagree that the assessment is we shouldn't be discussing this or dealing with this or spending time on it because there are more important things to do. There is nothing more important to do than getting this right. So we've spoken to, everyone's spoken to the amendment. We're ready to go, ready to put it? No, you don't on amendment, Councillor Laurie. Standing orders have been the same forever on that point. Right, so this is the amendment. I'm now going to put the amendment, which would be to expand the panel by adding Councillor Ackland in. So those with Councillor Courtney.
Adding Councillor Courtney.
Right, okay, I'm going to put that. All those in favour of the amendment?
Aye.
Those against? No. Show of hands, please, just so, because we can get it. Those for? Those against? The amendment is lost. I'll now go to the substantive motion, and I don't think I need to, we'll probably take my speaking to the amendment as the right of reply. I'll just say to you very briefly that, councillors, I will be able to give you an update on how things are going very soon, and I have to say they're going extremely well. I'm feeling very positive, and we know what a fantastic place Nelson is, and so do other people, and they're keen to come and work with us on important things like the future of Nelson, and working in what I think is the best sector in the whole country, which is local government. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Carried? Do you need to show of hands? I think we'd take that as carried. Good. Righty-ho. Carried. Now, moving on to the remainder of the Mayor's report. Now, some other good news, as you'll see. We have in section 4, I have let you know about the proposed regional growth program, so I'm very pleased to see that come forward. That's a fantastic initiative for us to be able to work across Te Taihu o Maui. Brilliant support from councils and from iwi and regional stakeholders, and I want to thank Mark Rawson from the Regional Development Agency and Chris Ward, Mr. Chris Ward, our group manager, for the work that they've been doing to bring that together. So let's hope we get that underway and that's positively received, because those initiatives have been delivering great things throughout the country and I'd like us to be part of it. So more good news. I have noted in the next section of my report, committee membership and structures, and again, I just want to say another real success, and I want to acknowledge Councillor Walker. Thank you, Councillor Walker, for the diligence and commitment that you've shown to your role as interim chair of the Works and Infrastructure Committee, and we were delighted that you were willing to step up to that role. So when we get to September meeting, there's a little bit of dancing around to do here with the new remuneration, which you'll see on the next page, sorting all of that out. And we want the AAs would just like a bit of time to get everything lined up for that. Looking at Penny, there's quite a bit of work just to line that up. And as part of that process, actually, as a result of our sitting down and working through our vision process we did the other day, thinking about actually how we work at the top level and raise the bar in terms of governance, I am sitting down with the Deputy Mayor and the Chief Executive just to have a think about our committee structures, how we can make them work, how the delegations work, just to make sure that we're delivering best value to the people of Nelson. So that'll be coming up. Any questions on those two sections? Councillor Laurie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I take from 4.5 that we're going to have to go to the Remuneration Authority to get money for Councillor Walker to be the Chair of Works and Infrastructure. Is that the case?
No, not necessarily. No, because it depends very much on what the composition looks like. So that's what you need to do, is have a look at the composition and see what it looks like. So I don't know yet. And so I've got to work with Ms Langley. There's a few little mechanics in there to see what's there, including where our pool has gone. That was we had set aside for resource consent hearings, plan change hearings that we don't need.
So just without wanting to sort of make things, be simplistic, why don't we just pay Councillor Walker what the Deputy Mayor was being paid to be the Chair of Works Infrastructure? I'm just concerned about Councillor Walker doing this job.
Excuse me, Councillor Laurie, it does worry me sometimes how little you follow on council.
Really?
We've gone through this multiple times. Did you not realise that the Deputy Mayor gets paid nothing additional for doing that extra role? Did you not know that?
No, I think I did. I think now you mentioned it, yeah, I think I did
All right,
know
so
that.
we'll move on from that.
No, but I'm concerned that Councillor Walker is being asked to do a job and not being paid for it. Now, this has already been happening since he was given the appointment, and I guess by raising the question of the Deputy Mayor's position, it highlights this point. So I'm just what's going on? Why can't we pay Councillor Walker for the job he's doing?
Councillor Laurie, we did actually traverse this at the time. Councillor Walker wanted an opportunity to see whether he enjoyed the role, because it's quite a job to go to. If we had to go to the Remuneration Authority to seek another determination, there's quite a lot of work for the staff to go backwards and forwards, and so we talked about that at the last meeting. And we know that there is going to be quite a lot of work to put this forward, and if we're going to make any committee changes, it's best to go once to the authority. They don't particularly like you coming every couple of months or so. And I am picking up actually that message that I do think people should be remunerated for the work that they do. And so Councillor Walker will be, but it just takes a little bit of time. Councillor Walker, are you comfortable with that? I'll just go to Councillor Walker, because I do think we're getting into some rather
thank
silly
you, Madam Mayor. I do thank Councillor Laurie for his concern. I can state that Sue and I will be able to buy our loaf of bread. We are survivors, and I'm more than happy for the process to follow the way it is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Elected member remuneration is the next one.
Can I just ask, make one other quick point? No, that's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Laurie.
I'll get on to it later.
Any other questions for any other councillors in relation to those sections? So we'll work our way through. As I've said to you, which is always my approach, When it comes to making committee changes, I always come and talk to you about those before they come to an agenda. You have my commitment on that. It's always how I've worked. I don't do things surprises. If there's things to be discussed, I always come and talk to you in person. You know that. Councillor Delberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I'd just like to second your comments here about Councillor Walker, the enthusiasm he's taken on that role and the fact that he's really on top of it, and you can see the staff enjoy working with him. Well done, Councillor Walker, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Delberg.
I did one.
Oh, further question from Councillor
I remember
Laurie.
what it was. I turned
Councillor
the page.
Laurie, do you want to just leave your microphone on for the day? And
No,
I
I think
can
that'd be
just every
excessive.
item I can come to you.
No, these are the ones I'm really interested in. So I'm really thrilled to see on page 67 of the report from Fran Wild, the Chair of the Remuneration Authority, that the issue of whether or not councils can or should provide childcare allowances for elected members was raised by a number of elected members in recent months, including some people around this table. We've begun work on it, but we have not had time to complete that work prior to the issuing of this determination. I'm thrilled to see that in there. It is I think this is really positive, and I'm just wondering whether we have any idea, or you have any idea, of how long it might take before we have some clarity on this issue, which I think is very important.
I possibly will, but not just yet. I have done some work for the Remuneration Authority. It's one of my roles is giving my service to Local Government New Zealand. They asked me to come and be part of the review process, and Fran may well ask us to come back again, the group that's doing that. So I may have the opportunity to do that, but we'll wait and see. We can always inquire.
Yes.
Local Government New Zealand Board, we actually have asked as well, so we've followed that up. I'm well aware that it's so absolutely, I can't see it's a problem. We can do that.
Ask.
That's
Thank you
done.
very much.
Job
Thank you.
done. Righty-ho, moving on to the next section of the report, elected members' remuneration. It's set out there. You've got the letter from the Remuneration Authority, and I'd just like to remind you all that we have another step to do in relation to this, because this is only the first part of the new determination, and we need to have that workshop so that you can give us some feedback. And I'm just wondering how that is going. I think I tasked you with that job, didn't I,
Madam
Councillor
Mayor,
Noonan?
you did, and I think I nailed everybody.
You nailed everybody?
I
What, to
think
the
so.
mast? Or? Oh, gosh.
They all said yes, but
Good.
I said it was important that we actually have this conversation. Very few of us actually inputted into the first round.
It was extremely disappointing for
It
me as Mayor,
was.
I have to say. I did email you and you got follows up, and very few of you gave me any feedback.
So I think for the next round, if the councillors want to reread how it actually could impact, I think they'll be a lot more interested, because we could end up with a very big pay drop.
Yes, that's right.
So maybe that would encourage them to actually meet and have a discussion about it, because they are talking about changing the remuneration based on area size, and we've got a very small area size, even though we undertake a lot of the tasks that other councils don't. So I think it would be very well worth having a workshop.
Thank you. I'll just check. Sorry to put you on the spot, Miss Langley, but how has that workshop come into your system yet, or do we need to just move? I think we might still need to formally flag it. So what Councillor Noonan's telling me is that, yes, I tasked her with inquiring from all of you that you wanted a workshop. Can I just get a show of hands whether you want a workshop or not, because there's no point the AA's scrambling around and nobody turning up. Do you want a workshop on this? Show of hands, please. If you're interested, are you going to turn up? Okay, it's probably enough to make it worthwhile. I'll work with Miss Langley to see what we can do. All right, determinations on the next page, and as we've said, we've got a couple of things we just need to clarify on that one. And before I go to the Mayor's discretionary fund, I just do want to cover off just very briefly, the local government conference. It was a really good conference. We had some excellent speakers. I found it great opportunity to just start thinking quite strategically about some of the issues for Nelson. I'm not going to give you a full report on the conference today, but I will be writing something up in terms of the particular aspects that I found useful for it. I want to just thank, well, I'm here too, I want to just thank those of you, both elected members who were so incredibly supportive about me accepting the nomination to go into that presidency process, and I want to thank the staff as well, who were so very, very supportive, and a lot of sent me personal messages and encouragement, and felt very proud about the fact that Nelson had an opportunity to move forward into that space. It's an interesting role that I think the public really don't understand at all, and I certainly don't think the media really understand how local government New Zealand works, and I think that's a story that we're going to have to tell better. We're a membership organisation, and as being members, mayors particularly have a responsibility to put themselves forward to serve the organisation. We can't be a stronger local government if we keep making it somebody else's responsibility to lead. And when my peers on National Council came to me and said, we want to nominate you, I actually have a responsibility on behalf of all of us in the sector to say, yes, I'm prepared to put my name forward. Not for the purposes of necessarily winning that outcome, but for the purposes of it's important that we keep putting people up who the sector believe have got the talent to compete in those spaces and to represent us as a sector. It is work, it's a lot of work being part of National Council already. A lot of that work you don't see, so you have no idea. See, the Deputy Mayor and Jenny, my EA, have a fairly good idea of how many days I'm around the country doing different things to help our sector and to help you and bring back good policy advice. Sometimes our team goes with me, so we might take one of our GMs will go, or the Chief Executive, because actually we work together on this. So the other sort of bookend of LGNZ is SOLGM, the Society of Local Government Managers. A lot of the policy work we do it with the chief executives or the GMs from different councils. We have strategy and strategy groups. We have significant interest groups that sit across local government, and certainly within the regional sector that we belong to, we spend a lot of time working with parliamentarians across political parties and coming up with proposals that are going to be really good for New Zealand and make some changes. I'm really proud that the climate change initiative came back into National Council, and I encouraged the President at the time to bring it forward for the conference in Auckland, and they took up that suggestion, and I was really pleased. And I'm hoping to see more and more mayors sign up to that climate change initiative. At the moment we're working on some other proposals that will come forward in terms of some other declarations. I've got, as you know, a particular interest in water and what we can do around water quality, and I do a lot of, well, actually, while I was away, I didn't do very much work on my holiday. I have to say I did really have a honeymoon and a break, but there was a critical piece of work that needed to be done on water, and I fed back into that and did that, and it's working very well through LGNZ and the regional sector. But I just want to say to you, I really appreciate that support. I really believe in local government. One of the things when I gave my speech at the AGM, and I have to say, you have a fair idea what the outcomes are going to be when you go up to give your speech. You know, I went last night to my year with Helen, and I have to say I sat there and there was a bit of a fire in my belly as I was watching that. And we're going to come to Linda in a moment because she's off to do some connection with the United Nations. And I sat there and I watched that movie, and here we are. We have never had a woman Secretary General, and as you know, those of you working with me, I have a real passion for helping women advance to leadership roles on boards in New Zealand, on organisations. And as a woman who had been asked to be nominated, I have to have turned around and said no, actually wouldn't have been advancing the cause of getting more women into leadership. And if my standing, and even knowing how tough it was going to be, and that you know, it's big politics in there, it's very big politics, but knowing, you know, you do that because you hope that actually somebody else sitting out there, that the women in the room, the younger women particularly, there are now some many capable young women, mayors across the country, who I think have got a great future, will one day step up. And Dave Cull's a fantastic president, but you know, as a woman leader in our community in New Zealand, I do one day want to see, perhaps in the next decade, that just like we haven't yet had a Secretary General who's a woman, we haven't had a President of local government who's a woman. And one day I'd like to see that happen. But thank you very much for your support. I was obviously very disappointed to see the media that came out afterwards, and I'm not sure who it was that went to the media. I have around that, the Nelson Mail got my comments around that. Unfortunately, it did take a lot of work for Paul Shattuck to sort out. to make sure that my comments were reported as they were. My view is that councillors, if you've got issues, you should always come to talk to the person together, and we deal with things in-house, and that's how we deal with them. But I don't want to have any more debate about or discussion around that. I just want to say to you, it was a great experience for me, because you should put yourself forward for experiences. And if you were only going to do them because you only do them because you had success of winning, then not many things would happen in the world, would they? There would never have been a female mayor of Nelson. Right, and on that basis, here comes another young woman with a fantastic ability and talent, and I now want to go to Linda, who I have mentioned in my mayor's report. And Linda has sent me an email, which was very, very timely, I've just come back from Cambodia, and Linda sent me an email about her aspirations and what she wants to achieve. And Linda, I'm going to hand over to you now just to talk a little bit about your plans and what you'd like to do and why.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, awesome. Well, anything else?
Yeah, tell us some more. Tell us some more about part of your, you happy to talk about part of your motivation?
My motivation?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't really know what to say, but I guess, like, part of my motivation is I spent so long looking for what, like, I'd like to do in the future, and I couldn't find anything, but then, you know, politics, international relations and all that just came along, and I was like, hey, this is cool, like, I'm really starting to get into it, and I'm enjoying it. It's something that I enjoy and maybe want to do in the future. And yeah, so the opportunity came up and I just applied for it, not knowing what it was about. But now I do, now that I've like gotten more into politics and modern United Nations. And yeah, I guess part of my
Linda, thank you. And what I would say is just before I go, you wrote me a fantastic email. I'm a little bit, we have some kind of guidelines around our Mayor's Fund in terms of how much I can fund individuals for different projects, so, and that's just how we have to do it. So I've kind of got, there's an amount in here, but I would say that this is a really expensive exercise for Linda to go and do this. She has to raise a lot of money to go. And I'd really like her to be able to go and do that. Linda had sent me an email saying, you know, her family is from Cambodia, and I asked, I'd just been in Phnom Penh, which is where Linda's family has been from, and it's fair to say, Linda, that the political systems in Cambodia are a little bit different from here. Yeah, a lot different, and even expectations about what women will do are a little bit different in New Zealand to what they are in Cambodia, and particularly when it comes to politics. So well done you, and I hope it goes really well. We'll look forward to hearing back from you. Any questions for Linda? Councillor Eklund.
Linda, this is great, and really good luck with it, and particularly with the fundraising, because I know that's quite a daunting task for you in terms of the costs involved. And I encourage all of us to contribute. Without blowing my own trumpet, Libby and I, we've contributed some to yours, and we're really excited for you. Just on why you're getting involved, you're not the only one who sometimes gets involved with politics without knowing exactly what it's all about. Speaking from my own experience. So you learn things every day, and don't get distracted from the principles of why you go in there. And I think it's fantastic that you're going to be representing New Zealand and representing Nelson when you're over there. I'm really excited for you.
Well said. All right, thank you, Linda. And I think that's the end of the Mayor's report. Any final things for Linda?
Just
Councillor
if we would
Noonan?
like to take up the challenge that Councillor Ackland's laid, would you like to send the councillors a link or something that we can pick up?
Yeah, I can get your emails from the council page. And
Sure.
We can help with that.
Yes.
We can help with that.
Right.
All right, I can.
Right.
Ginny
And
will
good
help
luck.
with that.
And congratulations.
Councillor Skinner.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, well done, and I echo Councillor Ackland's words. We get into these things in politics, and once you're in, you just realise how valuable it is, and it's always a bit of a whole new world. And if you don't try things, you never know. So no, very commendable.
Well done. Thank you.
And on another positive note, community, if I was able to just tag on to your good words about the doc getting that great award, Supreme Award, which you spoke about at the beginning of your Mayor's report, in eradicating. I think that being overlooked is a fine lady, very elderly lady, if I recall, I think she might have been in her 90s, who spotted that white butterfly 2010. And as you know, the great white butterfly and the white butterfly, both pests, and the great white butterfly would cause great havoc to our horticulture, but they're both pretty damn identical. If you put them side by side, you have to have a pretty keen eye, and there'd never been one in the country before. In 2010, this elderly lady, and I believe she was in the late 80s or early 90s, with keen eye spotted it in a cabbage patch and rang Doc and said, I think this is a problem. So I would like to recommend that we, if possible, gave her some acknowledgement.
You
as a
said
city.
if you know the name of that
It was
particular
reported
person.
in the paper in 2010.
Well,
and
you
I'd
work
love to look it up.
with Mr. Shattuck and Jenny, and we'll see what
It
we
makes
can
my
do.
mind because a lot of
we'll
kids,
follow that up.
A lot of kids,
We'll follow that up.
a lot of kids caught during their school holidays a lot of butterflies,
They
which was
did.
great. But this, I was always amazed this lady's keen eyes to pick up something which was so similar to a really already established butterfly, but such a huge impact. And she spotted it first time ever in this country.
We'll
It'd be great if we could do something on that.
we'll follow that one up.
Thank you.
Councillor Courtney, and we'll finish.
Thank
the
you.
Mayor's report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to go back now to your introductory remarks leading into your report. You mentioned about community partnerships and how you're wanting to develop those, and then you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to see you give favourable consideration to establishing a link with the Nelson Chamber of Commerce, having some sort of council representation there. I think it would be most helpful to strengthen those community relationships. And the second point I want to make is to say that I concur with your remarks you made about our acting chief executive. As you know, he took each one of us councillors out for a coffee for an hour. Not you, Councillor Ackland. Well, you've still got that to look forward to. You are, and you will. And he passed for me the test, and I have a test that is the first two sentences, Your Worship. And in the first sentence, he said he was loving being here. So that was a tick for me. The second sentence, he said he was excited about the opportunities here, and I thought, well, that augurs well for his time with us. So, but most of all, and you've picked up on it, it's his enthusiasm that I like. And it is really, really contagious, isn't it?
Absolutely. Right, we're doing good stuff. We're doing good stuff. So thank you all very much. Now, we really do have to wrap this up. We're not going to be finished by 12:30. Councillor Barker, you get the last word.
Thank you, Your Worship. And it's arising from the proposed regional growth program. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that last night I saw one of the best promotional TV programs for Nelson that I've seen. And it was on the BBC channel. It was related to Rebecca Gibney, who's an Australian actress, born in New Zealand, and she was retracing her ancestry, which began in 1855 in Nelson, when the Way family came to Nelson, and the shots and the publicity for Nelson was incredible. I wonder if our PA team could perhaps
Absolutely.
get a copy of that.
Paul will see if he can track it down and see if it's of any use to us. So thank you very much. Right, I'm really wrapped up now, Deputy Mayor. I think we could, at least it's...
I'm just going to give you a little comment to say that if you'd like to meet her brother, go down to the Ocean Lodge on a Friday night. He's my
Righty-ho,
drinking
we're
partner.
moving on. Okay, thank you. I knew I should have gone with my first judgment and said, no, you couldn't speak. Right, that's the Mayor's report worked on. Now we're going to go to the next one. What have we got next up, David? What do we? 68. 68. Up at Trafalgar Street. Now, who's going to come and speak to this one? Mr. Ward is here, and he has written us a very thorough report. I don't expect there are going to be too many questions because the report pretty much answers everything you should need to know. Righty-ho, and we have welcome to Miss Hubei. Nice to see you. Liz, yes, she says. Welcome. We've got your report. Any corrections or clarifications?
Just a
to the
correction.
report?
Michelle has done all the work on this report. I can't claim any credit for writing the report,
Well done,
so I will
Michelle.
leave her to answer any questions on it. Thank you.
Right. Any corrections or additions, Michelle? No. Okay. Thank you. Any questions in relation to the report, Councillor Courtney?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Officer Ward. It implies in the report that we're going to do consultation over this exciting proposal, but my sources tell me that it's already happened. It's already taken place. Is that correct?
Through the chair, we have had one very informal meeting with businesses up in Trafalgar Street, really just to put out the feelers to see whether the mood had changed as we thought it had. And the meeting was very positive, a lot of support, and that's really why I'm here today, to talk a bit more about the proposal, get some guidance from you as to whether you're happy with the idea, and then we will do some more work in the consultation space.
Thank you. Councillor Barker?
Thank you. I'm just wondering about section 5.10 of the report, and can you tell me the reasoning behind why the council, on behalf of the ratepayers of Nelson, would subsidise the cost of these businesses extending their liquor licences?
Yes, we did think this might be a tricky point. Really, it's to encourage people to take part in the trial, and as you can see, the number is quite a large number for a business to put in for what is essentially a 4-month trial. So this is really the carrot, I suppose, but we do need some guidance from you on that.
Thank you. Councillor McGurk?
Yeah, I'm heartened to see this report come before council, and I think consultation, talk is the way forward. I don't want to get it too formal. This will be an evolving process. I think it's a temporary one. So I'm encouraged by it, so I just keep talking.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rutledge, then Councillor Laurie, Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Move it. We just deal with this. We'll just get this down. It's been moved, and I had a seconder, Councillor Laurie.
Sure, I'll second it.
You're Councillor Rutledge going to second. Okay. Well, you're on the phone, right? Well, you're on the phone.
I guess I'd echo the concerns about the subsidising the liquor licences. I think council's role is to build the facility to attract people in the area, but let the businesses do their own thing from there. So, but my question is, I don't see any reference to Uniquely Nelson in the report, unless I missed it. What's their role been in this, and what do you see their role in this going forward?
Through the chair, Uniquely Nelson have been very much involved behind the scenes. We've had meetings with them as well as NRDA, and they were also in attendance at the first meeting we had with businesses. And really it's through them that we've made a lot of our connections, and a lot of the conversation in the community is being handled by Uniquely Nelson, and they've been giving us feedback along the way, and they'll be involved in this process as we progress.
Okay, so in terms of further consultation or feedback, can we use them as being the representatives of the retailers to do that consultation, or is that going to come direct from council to individual retailers?
Through the chair, this will be a partnership. We will be working with Uniquely Nelson, and we'd like to be involved. We'd like to be involved in the conversation directly, but they'll certainly be involved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And final question on those liquor licenses. How many businesses would be applying for licenses? So you talk about up to $7,000. That might be a big hit for one business, but I'm taking that split over many, or is that per business?
Through the chair, the price of an extension depends on the size that you're asking for. So depending on how much bigger you want your space to grow will affect the price you pay for the license. So if all 7 businesses all are asked to pay the highest amount, it will be $7,000. but perhaps not all 7 will take us up on extending the space, and some might only need a little bit more. So this is why the number is a range, and this is something that we will need to investigate a little bit more to be able to give you exact figures.
Thank you. Councillor Laurie.
Thank you. Through the chair, the liquor licensing part doesn't concern me that much, because what we're suggesting will hopefully be good for the whole city, and we are asking these businesses to give something up, which is parking and cars, people moving in front of their businesses. So I think that's fair, and I think that over time, if it works, we'll recoup that cost very quickly. So I think it's a move worth making. I am a huge advocate of this, sort of championed it. The one thing that does raise an eyebrow for me is the length of the closure. I've always thought the way to go is to do it when the town is absolutely packed, when we have the most number of people on the streets, because that gives us our greatest chance of it succeeding. Do we get that when we go for the full 4 months?
Through the chair, at our initial discussions with businesses, we had suggested a much shorter period, and this longer period is actually as a result of discussions with them, because they had suggested that in fact the quieter time and the time when they'd need a bit more of a boost and something to attract people to that space is really after Christmas. But the length of the closure is something that we will now consult on again, so it may well be that we get more feedback and we end up deciding that a shorter period is a better option.
Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Thank you for the report. My question really is, has there any thought been given to actually extending it through to Bridge Street? Between Hardy and Bridge, basically.
Through the chair, there are the real supporters of this idea would like to see it extended, and certainly something that we can think about in future, but for this first step we hadn't really planned a greater space than only up at Trafalgar Street.
So I really wondered, Madam Mayor, whether that consultation or that querying could go on alongside what you're doing already, rather than have a separate. I mean, if it's already been raised, if people are interested, whether you gather some information at the same time.
So through the mayor, I would just comment that it has taken a number of years to get the retailers at the top in that section of Upper Trafalgar Street into agreement with the principal. I think if we were to do, we haven't had that long-term conversation with other businesses on Trafalgar Street, and I think that this trial is an opportunity to start that conversation. I think it would be a bit of a jump to go from only having talked previously about Upper Trafalgar Street to going further, although it is something that...
Thank you. Councillor Delberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I'd be in favour of fee cost assistance from the Nelson City Council as we find out what the actual effects are of that closure. My discussion with the business people are that they need activity up there, so we are going to close it. And one of the discussion points we had was us helping to generate activity in that area, people moving. Street closure will drop that activity off, and in winter, they highlighted to me that place is just dead if you haven't got cars going through. So again, it's great for us to suggest something, but we need to actually make sure while we're finding out we don't impinge on them. So, and the other important part there is the mobility parking. See, it's highlighted. Again, we have people in our community that need assistance in their getting around town. So again, that's vital we get that right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, councillors, since we've moved in second, some of you have been speaking in support. I'm taking as speaking, and so I'm not going to be coming back to you. So, for instance, Councillor Delberg, that was a speaking in support. Councillor Laurie spoken in support. I've now got Councillor Skinner, and then I've got a very small question from Councillor McGurk, and then I'm going to Councillor Barker, who's going to speak to... You'd like to debate, right? Councillor Skinner, Councillor McGurk, Councillor Barker, then Councillor Noonan. We're getting on with it. We've got questions because we've got to get through this meeting. We need to be a bit more sharp about this, otherwise nothing will happen. The biggest obstacle to getting these things done is this room. Okay, Councillor Skinner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll keep it short. I commend and support of what we're trying to achieve here. It's good timing for it, assuming there's support from the businesses. The question I do ask is, it seems relatively straightforward to block off areas and make it an okay area, but in reality, is that going to cause much disruption setting up, taking down to businesses? Scares me what's happening in Queen Street, Richmond. I know it's not on the same scale, but is there going to be any disruption for any period of time?
Through the chair, we don't expect there to be much disruption. The exact method we end up using to close off the street is still to be discussed. It's one of those details that we, still need to pin down, but we expect it to be fairly straightforward, and the setting up and taking down of the furniture will be a job for the businesses every day. The planters and so on, they'll remain where they are through the night, and the next morning the businesses will put out their furniture again. So it won't really affect, won't be a council job.
Okay, thank you. So commentary on that from me is that, as we do very well most of the time, is making sure that it's very effective the communication with business. It may not be affected directly, those up and down the stream and parallel roads, so that they're aware, especially with their businesses.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner. That's good governance feedback. Councillor McGurk.
Yeah, thank you for your indulgence, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question. In reference to 5.19, the legal advice, I understand there's a limit on the number of times that we can close, or a period that we can close the road.
Through the chair, this is a different part of the legislation that we're relying on. So the section that you're thinking of is 11E, which allows council to close a road for an event, and for that section there is a time limit of 31 days in a year, but we're actually relying on 11D, which says that council has the power to close a street if they decide it's appropriate to divert traffic, and so we're not caught by having to have an event or by the 31 days.
Okay. Councillor Barker.
Thank you very much. I've been involved with this area in various ways since the creation of the ring road system, and I've seen it evolve, and I've seen the attitude of the businesses there evolve and change, and I think the time has now come when it's completely different to what it used to be. Those businesses, I'm taking from the report that I've received, are supportive of this happening, and I believe the time has come for it to happen, and I'm very happy to look at that we're going to do it with further consultation just to confirm that. I think it's I wasn't totally hot over the money we're spending in Church Street. In fact, I was quite lukewarm, but because I think this is the area, this is the main area that where tourists and visitors to Nelson and people who live here are going to enjoy the ability to stop there. We have not reached that stage with the block between Hardy Street and Bridge Street. I'm not in favour of even thinking about that until we get requests from the businesses involved, and that they're showing some desire to do it, because I don't believe they'll be in favour of it. They're at the stage that the people in Upper Trafalgar Street were 20 years ago. So I don't want to see us waste any time on that. If we did do that, we would be, I believe, required to look at the possibility of a parking building if we were going to close that central area, and we're not at that stage yet. So happy to see this proceed. I'd like to see it become permanent, in fact.
Right, thank you. Councillor Noonan.
We're in debate now.
Several have already debated.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm supporting this recommendation. The report talks about some prices between quality on what furniture, what bollards, what planters we're going to use. I would recommend that we go for a good quality for this. I know it might be temporary, but if it fails, and I don't think it will, then they can be reused elsewhere. To put something in that's cheap and nasty is just not going to have the right effect. So there is a range given between 5 and 30. Let's go for something good quality. Let's not do it twice. Definitely interested in what the next part of the street might think. So I'd be interested to see whether anything falls out of this closure, because I'd be supportive of that also. So yes, happy that we've finally got here. So it's taken some years. So I will support.
Right, I'll speak and then do you want to write a reply, Councillor Barker? I think you're done, aren't you? Right, well I'll speak and then we're going to put it. I'm just going to say to you, do some consultation, absolutely. But please don't talk and talk and talk or nothing will happen. It is 5 minutes from Christmas. If you're a retailer or in hospitality, the clock is ticking. For our businesses to be able to respond, actually we're going to have to work pretty swiftly to get a good result here. So I think there's been some great engagement, and Michelle, I want to acknowledge the work that you've been doing and partnering with Simon at Uniquely Nelson, and that is how it works again. It is all about partnership, going out and working with people, and I concur with Councillor Noonan's view. We're aiming for quality here. This is, this is really, the heart of our city. It is viewed by tourists. It sits below our cathedral, most visited in New Zealand. Very important that we get this right, and it looks really good. And I just go back to the commentary from Lord Mayor of Melbourne, and he talked about what Professor Rob Adams had to say about cities and how you make great cities. So you just create great streets. Really simple. Go and create a great street. Right, I'm going to put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Right. Mr. Peterson's here, so we're not going to break for morning tea. We're going to get this next section done because I don't think that's going to take too long. Welcome, Mr. Peterson. Welcome, Ruben. I said hello to you on live streaming before. Were you watching? Or were you busy doing more important consultants?
I was busy earning money for
busy doing consultants work for Opus. Yes, that's good. I'm glad that's the right answer for your employer. Absolutely. Right, Mr. Lavertis, are there any corrections or additions that need to be made to the report?
Through the chair, no, there's no corrections or amendments.
Right, we're going to take it as read. Any questions for the team? Got some recommendations here. Looks very thorough. No questions? In that case, was somebody care to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor McGurk, seconded by Councillor Courtney. No questions.
I've gone through them carefully, and I am appreciating and accepting that they're really tidy ups.
Yes, they seem to be. Right. In that case, I'm going to put it. All those, no debate. No questions, no debate. I'm going to put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Your chargeable hours are going to be very good today, Ruben. There you go. Get to go and bill another client. Don't need to be here billing us. Right. That's good. Excellent. I like reports like that. It's good, isn't it? Do you want to have a go at getting another one done? What's next up? Let's have a wee look.
French Hay Drive, 103.
Oh, French Hay Drive. Well, that should be pretty quick. We could do that, couldn't we? Page 103. Now, 103, who's got that report? Alison. I don't know Alison. Is Alison here? Oh, Peter's here. Oh, Peter's probably running and he's probably not here. I don't know that we're going to... If we don't have questions for Peter, has anyone got questions on this report? It's very straightforward. Welcome back, Nikki. Any corrections or additions that you're aware of? No. In that case, any questions for Nikki or Chief Executive or anyone else? We're page 103. I'd be happy to move that recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Noonan. Any questions or debate? No questions or debate. In that case, we will put the motion, and all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. That's good. And now we're up to the elected members' code of conduct matter. And I just want to get a sense of what I'm going to be dealing with here, and then I'll take a break. So, this has been away, so this item is here, and I'm aware, and what's been signalled to me before the meeting and signalled to all of you, is that, and I thank the councillors, Councillor McGurk and Councillor Delberg and Councillor Rutledge, who have put a lot of work into this, and the officers who have also put a lot of work into getting this right. It's taken several months, and I appreciate Peter. I'm sorry, you've been and gone. You've been and gone. We're all done. It's passed. Sorry, but that was good exercise running up those stairs. Now we're back to what I have been advised is on page. There's going to be on page 121. The final paragraph is going to be deleted. That's going to be proposed by Councillor Delberg. So it's just preparation for this report. And then I had an email this morning from Councillor Laurie. Councillor Laurie, do you really wish to pursue the matter you've raised this morning? All right. If you so you've raised a matter that you want to pursue, and how do you plan to do that? By moving an amendment or some? You will. Righty-ho, so what we'll do then, because that means it's going to just take a little bit longer than I thought it might. So we'll take so you'll need to make sure you've got your words across to Linda, and we'll take a 10-minute break. Could we just make it 10 minutes? Quick cup of tea, bathroom break, and then we're back here to get on with this. Thank you. And back online in a second. Everyone will get their seats. It's lovely. And we're just about there. We're good. All right, so we'll resume our meeting and start the meeting again. Now we're dealing with the paper on the Code of Conduct, because we'd like to be able to adopt one today. That would be useful, or our updated one, I should say. And we've thanked everybody for the work they put in and the feedback. And then this morning we've got something from Councillor Laurie, which I have said, Councillor Laurie, that's not ideal, but we'll deal with it, because really this has been out there for months, but you've raised it right before the meeting, and we'll deal with it. So what Councillor Laurie's done is what I asked him to do, which was to get his words up to Linda. So just relax, Bill, Councillor Delberg. What we're going to do is, to make sure that we don't end up in a muddle, we're going to move what is in the rec here with some amended words. Understand this is how this is going to work, and Linda's just getting those words now, because we're going to reference the page. So it'll be receive the report, and then we'll adopt the Code of Conduct with the number. And what words are we going to use, Linda? Yes, Councillor Delberg's. You'll put it up on the screen. I'll just make sure that everyone knows what we're doing. It's coming up now. It's coming on the screen. How are we going there? We're good. Here we are. Okay, so Linda, you can look that up. All right, so it would be adopts. So this is reflecting the feedbacks that Councillor Delberg circulated last night, and we've worked through it. Adopts the Code of Conduct with an amendment to remove the third paragraph of section 6. Contact with the media commencing members are encouraged. Do we all follow what that is? You can have a look at that. It's in, I think the words are in green. So are you happy with that, David, in terms of clarity? Yeah. You happy with that? All right. All right, so Councillor Delberg, is that what you wish to move? You're moving that. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Courtney. So that's been moved and seconded. Now, I understand that Councillor Laura, you wish to move an amendment.
I do.
And your amendment is?
It's on the screen. Yes, there we go. So I would like to add a line that says, where is it? I can read it here. It says so I'd like to add a line to the section on media. A clause.
So which page would you like to add it in? Which paragraph?
6.3.
6.3.
I think that's the right place for it to go.
You'd like a new paragraph 6.3?
Yes,
would you?
please.
Okay.
And I'd like that paragraph to read, elected members will not use anonymity or fake names to comment in online forums on council matters or council related matters.
Righty-ho.
Would you like to hear the reasons why?
Well, briefly, yes.
Okay, good. So I'm aware of at least one person at this table, one councillor who has in the past done that. And I think that anonymously commenting or using a fake name to comment on council matters is cowardly and undemocratic. And I think this is something that we should address, that this practice is something that a lot of people engage in, and I don't think councillors should engage in it. And I know some people have said to me around the table, how do you enforce that? How do you actually make that that happen? I agree that that is very, very tricky, but I think...
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor Laurie, but we're going to need a seconder. Councillor Ackland's going to second that. Thank you.
Okay, so I know that people say, well, it's really hard to enforce this, but to me that's a bit like saying, why? To me it's a bit like saying, what's the point of having a law against burglaries? You can't necessarily stop burglaries. I think that this is a modern issue, and I think that it actually does the council no good when people do engage in this behaviour, and so I think this should be included in the code of conduct.
I'm puzzled on your rationale, but who did I have to speak? Councillor
I
Noonan.
don't see why.
A question? Well, how are you going to know? How do you enforce it?
I'm happy to ask,
So
ask that.
I don't normally allow questions across the table, and I have to say, Councillor Laurie,
Looking at
you
you,
have
Madam
had
Mayor.
3 months to bring this forward, and actually, and I have to say, as I said to my email, is that actually in itself is not consistent with respectful behaviour through the code. But we're
sometimes
allowing
good
it in.
ideas.
We're allowing it in today. It's not good process to do these things on the fly. But all I can do, Councillor, is I'm going to have have a little bit of cross discussion. Councillor
So
Laurie.
sometimes good ideas come at you know, late at night or early in the morning, and sometimes they don't come 2 months prior to when the issue is discussed. So to go to Councillor Noonan's point, look, the code says things like we must be respectful to each other, and we must show respect. Now, people will have conversations and they'll do things which may not meet the code, and you can't enforce everything that's in the code. But I think the code should set out what we expect in terms of people's behaviour. And I have seen comments on Stuff Stories that strike me as having come from elected representatives.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. No, you're not going to finish. You've got to answer. I'm entertaining the across answering the question. So what Councillor Noonan asked you is, how would you do this? How would you know?
Well,
How would you know?
I actually think that that is secondary to the point. How would you know, for example, in the code, that someone is always respectful? How would you know that someone is always... You can't. But the code should set out what we think is appropriate for councillors. Are you I mean, I think, do you take a different view?
Councillor Noonan, he's given you his
Madam
answer
Mayor,
now. Who else is on the list? Anybody else? Can we make this
Response,
reasonably
or shall
quick?
I just...
Would you like to speak? I'm happy to, you're to speak to it now.
Well, I'll speak to it now.
Thank you.
you.
I'm happy to take both
no,
questions. You'll wait.
I'll speak to the amendment now.
Yes. Speaking to the amendment, it's been moved and seconded.
Okay, thank you. No, I can't support this, Councillor Laurie. The reason being, you just don't know. You don't know who it is. If someone's disrespectful and they're actually, I mean, I think you've mentioned before, we're all grown up here. You've said that to me.
So we should use our names.
It's my turn to speak.
Councillor Laurie, could you please turn your microphone off? Thank you.
When people are disrespectful to me, I know. I'm very aware of it. I'm probably more aware of it than they are, actually, because I didn't get here without being disrespected to, and I respond in the manner that's appropriate at the time. If someone wants to have a go or do it fictitiously or any other way, they're going to do it. We may know who it is, we may not. But if we put this in a code of conduct, we can't enforce it because we can't prove it any more than you may able to. So on that basis, we have to trust each other that if you're going to have a go at somebody, just do it. This isn't going to fix it.
Councillor Deputy Mayor, Councillor Mathis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I know where Councillor Laurie is coming from, but I think your wording is awful. And I really do. I mean, to call it fake names and things is a bit Donald Trump. Yeah, but I don't want to reflect Donald Trump. What I'm simply saying, Madam, is that I think I know where he's coming from, but I think the wording is awful.
Okay, councillors, couple of things. Please don't be just shouting out what you want to say across the room. Okay, it's just we're trying to lift the bar in governance here. The other thing I'd say is in entertaining this, there've been a couple of sort of non-specific accusations made today, sort of veiled. Please don't do that. If you have an issue about councillors' conduct, then you have a process of following that. We're trying to get this sorted today, but non-specific accusations really aren't going to get us anywhere. Come on. Councillor Skinner.
seems bizarre to me. It seems to open a whole can of worms and making it complicated what the code of conduct is there to achieve. I'm surprised that Councillor Laurie thinks there's someone using a fake name to have a go. I don't know if it was a personal attack or a view on without using a name, but as councillors, we're all pretty upfront and pretty public if we have a view around the table or so forth. It's more of a concern with the public hiding behind names and having a crack at us as a council, as individuals. I can understand that, but my concern is this is more of a knee-jerk reaction to probably the pressures going on, not just in Councillor Laurie's central government ambitions, but this is, I think we should keep this to local government work. So I don't support this at all.
Councillor Barker.
Your Worship, I feel aggrieved that there's been a statement made that a councillor believes one of the other councillors, and he hasn't been specific who it is, has been doing what he says with a fake name. The public hear the statement made in public. The finger of suspicion could be pointed at me or any of the other councillors. I think what Councillor Laurie has done with doing this is discourteous to us all and is definitely not in the interest of what we're trying to achieve with the code of conduct. I don't want the public to think that I'm doing that. I don't do that.
Yeah, fine.
But
You said it.
you haven't said that it wasn't me. You haven't said who it is. It was totally disrespectful.
So, Madam Mayor, it
I'm
is out
sorry,
of respect.
you are not next in the speaking order, Councillor Laurie. Okay, you have been on that microphone, on and off, and speaking across the room all day. I know there's a lot going on in everybody's worlds, but right now I've got a council meeting to run. Councillor Eklund.
Thank you. I don't know, I support this. I don't quite know why the focus is on enforcement because, like, I understand what you're saying about the difficulty of enforcement, but this document isn't a tool for enforcement. This document isn't a tool for complaints. This document is an aspirational document, essentially, where we all agree the level of conduct that we expect of ourselves and of each other. This is a document that we all agree is that this is a type of behaviour that we don't consider would be appropriate for councillors to engage in. Whether or not people do it or not, that's up to them individually. This is an aspirational document about conduct, and it's a code of conduct. So I totally agree with this. We shouldn't be doing that. It seems extraordinary that that would be the case. And if we vote this down, does that mean we're saying that it's okay to do that? Why wouldn't we include it? Are we saying it's okay to do that because we're not going to include it in our code of conduct? I think that's a really disappointing, and I'm a bit ashamed really that we do that, because I expect that level of conduct from myself and of others, that we wouldn't engage in that kind of behind the back chat.
Councillors, you know I don't like this drafting on the fly, especially when you've all had the opportunity to come in and deal with this in terms of terms. You could throw in, I could sit here and we could add and add and add and add and add and add and add. I could say, actually, I think councillors shouldn't post personal negative things on their Facebook posts about other people. I could say, councillors, I expect all of you to come and talk to the person in person if you've got an issue, rather than go and talk about your views of somebody without coming to them first. All those things could go in here. A code does need to have some degree of enforceability, and I just can't fathom out how you would know, unless you had very strong connections with the editorial staff at the Nelson Mail who might share you the email addresses. I don't know, Jess, do you do that sort of thing? Share the email addresses on the online posters? No, I think no. So I just can't imagine how in the world you would advance a code of conduct complaint on this matter if you wanted to. I just can't see how you would do it. Councillor Laurie, I think I understand what you're getting at, and my advice to you is that you need to do what the other councillors did, and they gave time and effort to sitting down to get this to work. And you've brought this up at the last minute, and I think what you'd be best to do is to bring this back. If you really believe in this one, you need to bring your colleagues with you, and you haven't done that, and it's part of getting things through. Councillors, you've got to work as a team to get things done. And I think if you get a no on this, this is simply because you haven't brought it forward in a way that's taking your colleagues with you. So I'm, at this basis, I have to say we need to keep things at a level that actually moves the city forward. Yes, you could have a whole list of things in here, but bringing this up at the last minute without bringing your colleagues forward, having a chance to take advice from the administration advisors and EJ, who's worked on this so much, is I think probably not a good governance move. I think we've had enough speakers in relation to the amendment. Now we're going to, no, you can't speak again. I'm going to put the amendment. So there's an amendment, so you're voting for or against the amendment. Those for divisions, thank you, Linda. Thank you, David. You can take the division. Yep.
No, I will do it. Okay, Councillor Ackland. Support, you're an aye. Yep. Councillor Barker? Nay. A nay, okay. Councillor Courtney? We're a nay. Councillor Dahlberg? No. Okay, it's a nay. Councillor Fulton? We're an aye. Okay, Councillor Laurie? Aye. Councillor McGurk? It's an aye. Councillor Matheson? No. Okay, it's a nay. Councillor Noonan? No. Okay. Councillor Rutledge? No. Councillor Skinner?
No.
And Councillor Walker? Aye. That's an aye. And Mayor Rees?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The noes have it.
Okay, it's lost. The amendment's lost. Going back to the substantive motion. Speaking to the substantive motion, Councillor Rutledge.
Use.
So this is the amendment that Councillor Delberg's put up. Is that that's what we're talking to?
It's not an amendment.
That's what we're doing.
That's
Okay.
the motion. Okay, there it is. That's what's been moved. Okay, no amendment. This is a substantive motion.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Just being clear. I think what Councillor Ackland said just before applies exactly to this piece that has been removed. The intention was not to stifle anyone's ability to go out and put their point of view across, but merely to promote a productive way of working together, in that if you go out and make a statement where probably the next person the journalist would call is the person that council has deemed responsible for that area, you give them a courtesy of a heads up. It is not difficult. It's a text or a 30-second email. It was a way of promoting productive working together. I think it would have been the sort of thing I would have liked to have seen in a code like this. Not going to die in a ditch over it, but it just seems a shame that we can't meet that at least.
Thank you. Councillor Skinner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I support this code and conduct. And a whole, it's a far bigger improvement to what we had in the past, and as I know I've voiced my opinion on the previous one, I was disappointed in how that had evolved. This code of conduct represents us as councillors representing the community, and sometimes I get concerned when things come up well-meaning in a code of conduct that really either intentionally or unintentionally stifling us as councillors doing our job. So this code of conduct, I believe, is in good faith and in good detail and allowing us to do our jobs representing the community and being respectful also to the organisation at the same time, but not hindering our ability to be critical in a constructive way of decisions being made and as they're made, and to be able to constructively make good decisions. So on the whole, I support this greatly.
Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Your Worship. I, in consultation with Councillor Delberg, promoted the deletion of this particular third paragraph under the contact with the media, 6. I didn't want it to be perceived that we were having our media releases, our speeches, or any of our opinions, our views managed for us. It was going to our communications department for them to clear. It could be claimed after the event. I think the third paragraph is badly worded and it is in the past tense, and I understand all of that. But I could see a can of worms for us if we left it in there. I thought it was adequately catered for on the next page under page 122, 6.1, media contact on behalf of the council. And I thought it was catered for there, and I asked Councillor Delberg if he would look favourably and give favourable consideration to the deletion of this section. I had every confidence in the committee that, like you, Your Worship, that worked on this. They were diligent. Councillor Delberg, Councillor O'Brien and Rutledge. Sorry. Anyway, so I have no doubts about the rest of it, but that particular section I thought was going to be seen by the public as utterances being managed and a curtailing of free speech. And there is a great sensitivity out there at the moment on the whittling away of our democracy and the erosion of our ability to speak freely in the community. And so I thought that I applied my judgment, and I said to Councillor Delberg, I cannot support this code of conduct if that's included in it. And that's my position, and I'm very happy to second the amendment which expunges it from the code of conduct.
Thank you. Right, I want to get this moving along. I do want to speak to this. Does anyone else want to speak? Councillor Noonan, then I'll speak, and then we're going to put it. Do you want to write a reply, Councillor Delberg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The reason I asked for this to be included, this particular clause to be included, because in the past I've been caught, somebody's made a statement to the press, and as chair I was not informed. I don't have a problem with people speaking to the press at all on a personal view. The reason why I wanted that in there was just so that I get a heads up, like Councillor Rutledge, that I've made a statement, you might get a call. That's all it was meant to be. Again, like Councillor Rutledge, I won't die in the ditch over it. I'm comfortable with it being removed, and I would like to thank the committee that worked on this, because I was uncomfortable with the original that came to us. It was sent back and they've worked really hard on it, and I think we've got a very good document to work with. So I'm very happy to support it and thank those that worked on the document.
Thank you. It's a good code. You've done a really good job. I want to thank you for that. I want you to be focused on some of the things in there, like texting and working on other matters while we're in a council meeting. I have to say, as chair, it's really obvious to me when you know those things go on, because you're not engaged in the meeting and you're not listening to your colleagues, and actually I think you're shortchanging yourself more than anybody else when you sit at the table and do that. There are some really important principles in this document, and I wish we didn't have to have it, actually. You know, that for me would be a success. Well, we didn't need to have the code of conduct, because actually we all just had those principles of working in the best interest to our city all of the time, embedded in what we're doing. And actually, if I'd say to you, that would be what I'd ask of you, that you actually just, we work to that, we work on the issues where we're not doing so well in some areas. We make sure that when we're at this table, we're fully engaged in the meeting at all times, because, you know, that's why we're here. Ratepayers are paying your money and my money to sit here and make decisions on behalf of them, so they deserve to actually have your attention at the meetings. But let's see if we can get on with getting some great stuff done for the city, because it is an amazing city. It's a fantastic city. You can be a great team of people if you choose to be, and I'm really encouraging you to do that. Right, we've got to write a reply, Councillor Delberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just like to sort of say, really is a challenge to put together some rules for the rule makers, and a very good learning curve for myself. And I'd like to thank Councillor McGurk who added some value of his experience, plus also it's very useful points about the police code of conduct. We went to a very good level from that point of view. Councillor Rutledge has had some new eyes and sitting around the table, which was excellent. C.E. Dave was very useful, who added some experience, what he'd found from different councils. And I think our new name for our advisors, our governance advisors, have got some great support from them as well. I think just to cover off the point before about people not performing on the media, etc., we have got a lot of catch-alls in there, and one of them comes under our values and ways of working together, and one of them is ethical behaviour, which is item 3.3, which covers a lot of that stuff about honesty, integrity and being questioned. And I think if we are concerned about that'll be covered off there. And I thought some of the other bits we added in about the timeliness of complaints, etc., I just thought we had done an excellent job around everybody, and like everyone else's feedback and positive when we are trying to get this together. So on behalf of that, Madam Mayor, I recommend this, and thank everyone for their assistance.
Thank you. I'm going to put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we're on to the notice of motion, and item is the next one. Now, Councillor Walker, my understanding is that you may not wish to proceed with the notice of motion, but we're in your hands. So, as you know, only you can move the notice of motion. If you choose not to, we go to the next item.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to withdraw that notice of motion.
All right, thank you. We need to receive the report. So we do need to still receive the report. Is that correct? Or do we? We do? Why do we need to receive the report, Linda? I'm not going to adjourn, I just need to have a quick conversation. Right, I get that. It does need to be received, otherwise it just sort of lingers around. So we're going to receive the report. So we'll move Councillor Walker and a second by Councillor Aaron to be received. So we've done that. I will put the motion that we receive the report. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now, Councillor Walker, in relation to the notice of motion, you don't wish to proceed. You wish to withdraw? All right, so there's nothing further on that item. Nope, nothing further. That's now completed. Thank you. Now we move on to item 13. Item 13 is on page 153 of your agenda. This is the Tuhunanui Cycle Network. And
let's get some explanation as to why it's not proceeding.
We've covered that off, Councillor. I need to keep going with the meeting. You'll find it set out in the standing orders in terms of process. Councillor, Mr. Laverdis, any corrections or additions that you need to make to your report?
Through the chair, no.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Laverdis? And perhaps I might just go to Councillor Walker. Councillor Walker, you and I have had a discussion just in terms of which councillor might join you on to undertake this work, and we'd had a discussion about Councillor Laurie participating in this process. Yep. I understand you've spoken to Councillor Laurie, and Councillor Laurie, you're prepared to do that work. There's one question I just do have to ask you, and I'm doing this because I really do want to be clear about this. This work will have to go on, Mr. Laverdis, between now and the end of September, will it, or not? Will there be meetings?
Through the chair, absolutely.
All
so
right.
if this is passed, we will get onto this project as an urgent
Councillor Laurie, are you confident, and you really must be, that you can separate out your Green Party electioneering from this council work? It's really important that we have that commitment.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to get that. All right, because I was that was the only proviso. We just needed to have that discussion in front of your colleagues so they've got confidence in that. Right, any questions for Mr. Laverdis? So the proposal is that Councillor Laurie's name goes into that gap there. You're going to move the recommendation? Thank you. The whole lot? Excellent. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Walker, would you care to second that? Thank you very much. I think it's quite clear. No questions? No questions? Councillor Barker, question?
It's just a question on the information that's not in the report. Just a brief summary of the models for this Sakaway location, etc., that this party is going to be looking at. What actual routes are we talking about?
I think that's a level of detail that isn't. But Mr. Lavertis, just very briefly, because
I'm in the dark about
I think through the chair, yes, I do think that's a level of detail, and I'm really happy to sit down with Councillor Barker after this meeting and go through those details with him. Other than I can say, rather than go into the details, that we'll be looking at all the options that are on the thing, and in relation to that, any other options that are proposed by the group.
All right. So this is an engagement process with the community. No further questions, no further debate. In that case, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now the next item, is this the one that we've had withdrawn? No, it's not, is it? This is the risk management policy and risk criteria. No, this is all good to go. Page 162 of your agenda. Excellent. And we have got a report, and the report writer is Mr. Vaughan. It'll all look pretty straightforward to me. Mr. Vaughan, welcome to the meeting. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. Mr. Vaughan, are there any corrections or additions you wish to make to your report?
Madam Mayor, no.
Right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Vaughan in relation to the recommendation or the report? Attachments? No questions for Mr. Vaughan? Councillor Courtney?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Your Worship, on page 70, Mr. Vaughan, 7, reporting, it says that, you know, in intervals, this committee, this Council's Risk Oversight Committee, will report at intervals to be determined by the committee from time to time. You'd do that at least once a year, wouldn't you? Or would you think just as an issue arises and you settle it and then you report on it? Is that, what's the idea there?
Through the chair, madam, the answer to this at the moment is quarterly. The Audit Risk and Finance Committee, of course, has discretion on how often they do that, and they've set that at quarterly at the moment. The policy, of course, allows them to change it if they wish.
Any further questions for Mr. Vaughan? In that case, do I have somebody who's ready to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Noonan, seconded by Councillor Dalberg. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? It's very clear. Thank you very much, Mr. Vaughan, for the work that you've done on this. It's a very important part of our governance role and our interaction with the governance and the management of the organisation. This again is a real partnership. We need to work, you know, hand in glove, but understanding the different roles. And I want to thank Steve for the guidance that he has given in the Audit Risk Committee and the work that you've been leading and the rest of your team, so thank you. Happy to support that. Councillor Rutledge, I'll indulge you with a question. We're into debate, but we can still do that.
The question is very simply, did anything that arose from the LGNZ Excellence Report does that influence what's in here at all, or was there anything arising that we might want to consider?
That's a good question, Mr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The LGNZ Excellence Report was one which I was less, from a professional standpoint, I was less than happy with the basis on which it was constructed. I therefore think that we are, if I'm giving a professional opinion on this matter, we are some way ahead of where the thinking of Local Government New Zealand is in this matter. We've made those comments to the drafter of the original specification, if you like, for that review, and I believe they're considering them at this time.
All right. We're in the process of giving feedback at this stage. You will recall that when the assessors came, we were in the limbo stage of needing to get some remuneration attached to our external members, and so the Audit Risk Committee, so they did a point in time, and it's fair to say that it's not good practice. You wouldn't get a good tick from an excellence program assessment if you don't have an audit risk committee operating and ideally reporting up to council. That has been, we've dealt with the mechanic that had to happen there and we've given them that feedback. So thank you. Anyone else wish speaking to the motion? Councillor Delberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm in favour of this. Just also like to congratulate the staff on assisting with the Audit and Risk Committee's work. Always one of those challenging things, because when you're in the council you've got so many different assets and structures and staff and health and safety we actually had to cover off, and again a work in process. It's been sort of so I suppose adjusted or progressed over the last 6 months, and done a few of these now, and we are starting to look extremely good. And I'm sure there's more work to do, but I'm supporting this. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? In that case, I'm ready to put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Mr Vaughan. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, we're now into reports from committees, and we'll start on page 174, and we moved by Councillor McGurk. That's the Regional Pest Management Committee, seconded by Councillor Fulton. We're receiving unconfirmed minutes, so are there any recommendations to council? No, there are not. Oh, yes, there are. Yes, no, there are not. No, there's not. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Just before you put that, Madam Mayor,
yes, sorry, you wish to speak.
There's a workshop planned, joint workshop planned with the TDC, I think for the 29th of August, to just go over the content of it. There's a fairly technical document, and it will be useful for probably elected members to attend that workshop to at least get an understanding of the framework and the legislative background to the document, because it requires to be approved by both councils.
Yes, it does. Could you just repeat that date, Councillor McGurk?
Understand, it will need to be confirmed. I believe it's the 29th of August in the morning.
Right, okay. Well, hopefully that's still moving along. I think we should have that in our diaries, and hopefully an invitation gone out to all councillors. Excellent, thank you. Right, now I'm going to put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Aye. Against? Carried. On to the next item, which is item 10.Aug2017, the Nelson Tasman Regional Landfill Business Unit.
I'd like to move.
Unconfirmed minutes moved by Councillor Walker and seconded by...
To use our landfill. The emissions trading scheme levy is a considerable burden, and it affects us all.
Anyone else wants to speak to this? In case, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item 17, the NRSBU unconfirmed minutes. Does somebody care to move? Thank you, Councillor Walker. Seconded by Councillor Skinner. Any debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we're on to the Regional Transport Committee of the 19th of June, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Rutledge. Any questions on the unconfirmed, or not questions, anything there? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we have hearings panel other on page 187 of your agenda. Somebody care to move those unconfirmed minutes? Moved by Councillor Noonan, thank you. Seconded by Councillor McGurk. Any questions, debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we're on to item 20, Audit Risk Finance Subcommittee. Now we receive these unconfirmed minutes, so somebody moved. Councillor Delberg, thank you very much. I'm happy to second those. So I'll do the unconfirmed minutes first. The motion is to be put. All those in favour? Aye. I second it. I second it. Aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Now this is the liability management policy review, and this is one that item has been removed from my run sheet, has it? So that I don't have to. Oh no, coming up. 20.4, isn't it? I just need to circle that. Thank you. So we've got a recommendation to council that council adopts the amended liability management policy. Any questions on that matter? You'll all understand what a liability management policy is. If you don't, then you need to go and spend some time talking to Mr. Vaughan and his team. Someone care to move that we have the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Delberg, seconded by Councillor McGurk. Any questions, any debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we've got the carry forward items, starting with carry forward item from audit risk interim. That is set out in your agenda, and it tells you that we are going to ask accounts to approve the continuing work and approve budgets, and we'll look forward to the final report. Moved by Councillor Barker. Thank you, Councillor Barker. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Delberg. Any questions? Any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we're going to move on to the Council Risk Management Policy and Risk Criteria.
Madam Mayor, sorry to interrupt.
Councillor Noonan.
But I was looking at the minutes of that meeting, and I just want to, if you could help me through on page 193 and how it relates to what we're just looking at right now, because it says it was suggested the chairperson work with Mr. Vaughan to amend the policy to clarify the role, as if it's something that's going to happen. So I'm just wondering how that affects what we're passing right now.
All right, we might need to get Mr. Vaughan back to the table. Mr. Vaughan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and again through you. The paper in front of you, and I may have an early version of the agenda for which I apologise, so I may be referring to a wrong page reference. On my page reference, it is within the policy itself, starting on page 131 on the copy of the agenda I have, but in item 4, risk management method in that policy, and some subsequent changes, you will see text underlined in red. The page numbers may be incorrect, that's the problem.
All right. That's all right, well, we'll untangle this, that's fine.
I'm sorry. I was attempting to answer a question in respect of the recommendation in the minutes from that committee by reference to a document which is still to come up before this council. That is the amended policy. I apologise for the confusion.
All right.
Can we go back a step, Madam Chair, with your permission?
Yes, no, we can. So as I understand it, just so we can clarify what we're doing here, Councillor Noonan has asked a question in relation to page 193 of our council agenda. There's a record in the minute to say it was suggested the chairperson work with Mr. Vaughan to amend the policy to clarify the role of governance and the policy areas of responsibility. And Councillor Noonan, are you suggesting that maybe the policy we're about to approve is the one that's being referred to?
I just thought I would check before we pass it. Yes.
Yes. Well, just go to the Chief Executive.
Yep, just very quickly, yes, that was the area when the policy came up last time. It was just stopped at that stage to go back and have a think about what the role of governance is in risk. And so the risk management paper that we just went past on page 162 before had built that in, and those are in the underlined in red. So you're now coming up to the minutes which said, hey, that's what we were going to do. So, yeah.
So how does that relate to 20.3, which we're just about to do now?
20.3 in those minutes was just saying, at the time where this risk policy came up to that committee, the committee said, no, let's make a stop here and work out how work out what governance's role is in this risk policy. So that's what that is. And so on this agenda, it came up about the council's, the staff's response and how it worked with various people to try to get that right. And we actually went over that in that paper a little bit earlier on 162 about our response to that. So it might have flicked over a little bit fast if you wanted to just delay at that time and have a look at the changes that we made about where does the senior team fit, where does the elected members fit, what sort of risks come up to the council and when has been covered off in the paper we just passed, we just resolved a few minutes ago.
So that's becoming very confusing, but what I'm looking at now is what we're looking at 20.3 is actually what you finished with, which was the amendment on the day, correct?
Mr. Vaughan?
It was the resulting actions from the amendments on that day. We were told to go away and do things, some things. Those things have been done and appeared as I now understand it, in the paper you had me at the table to deal with a few moments ago. It appears this has sort of happened slightly backwards, and I apologise that I didn't help the clarity on that.
All right, so the committee members are happy that the recommendation to council is sound, and the officers are happy that the work that has had to be done has been done, and that we should proceed forward. No one's got a different view. No, it's just no. I just want you to be clear about what we're working on. Thank you. So we're now back to a recommendation to council to approve the risk management policy. All right. So that's has we had that moved or seconded, Linda? Not yet. Moved by Councillor Dalberg, seconded by Councillor Barker. Any questions? Discussion? Questions? Speaking to the motion, Councillor Dalberg.
Yeah, look, I appreciate that. Again, it's that risk management. It's in that box there when you're looking back on 172 and 173. It says table 3 risk residual risk tolerance was referring to. It had as part of our discussion exactly how they all link in together and how they escalate, and that was the discussion, and you're just going to have to trust the fact that that committee delved into it quite deeply, and I'm here to support that.
Right, thank you. Chief Executive.
Yep, just briefly, that's the right table to have a look at, and you'll see inside of there for those very high risks and those high risks, you'll see the authority for continued tolerance. And so in yellow, on that very high risk, on that bottom table, full counsel on the advice from the CE. So CE does have an important role. It's clarified that it's got a responsibility there. And on the other columns, obligation to promptly advise, including advising treatments, full counsel using best practical means. And you'll see a number of places that there's brackets, the counsel at the CE discretion. So in other words, is full intent of this thing is to disclose to council. We've added those things in there, but hey, it's going to come to your style to make sure it works well as between your next chief executive and your elected council and getting that style right.
It's been moved and it's been seconded. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? In that case, I'm going to put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we come to the item that is being withdrawn, I understand, which is the approval of the internal audit and annual audit plan. I understand that there's a bit more work that needs to be done with the chair of the committee and the other external member, or actually probably the whole committee at some point.
Yep, can I?
Yes, of course. Through
Through the chair, just very briefly, the staff team has been very good at knocking off all of the very high and high risks from everything that's gone up so far in the internal audit program. You'll be aware that it's got 28 to 32 odd internal audits that we're doing in the council, which is an extraordinarily high number per year. That comes at a downstream impact, which is that a lot of these things, where they're financial related, actually end up on one person's work program to be able to do, and a lot of it's process related, and now it's all sort of down below that kind of high risk area. So there's a staff member with about 70 odd actions to actually work themselves through, and they're absolutely swamped. So the issue is somewhere between right sizing the internal audit program and looking at the resourcing to implement it is the right answer. So we just need to slow and have a think about that.
Thank you, David. Right, now moving on to the next item, which is the Health and Safety Governance Charter Review, and we have a recommendation to Council that we approve the Health and Safety Governance Charter. Somebody care to move the recommendation? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconded by, I'm happy to second that actually, it's a very important document, so seconded. Any questions? Any debate? I'll put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And again, I would just say to all of you that if you are not familiar with what these documents are, and you're sitting in this meeting and you really feel like if you had to pass the multi-guest 20 questions test and you were going to fail, you need to go and meet with the officers and get across this, because you are an officer under the Act and you need to make sure that you are fulfilling your responsibilities here. It's critically important. So, this isn't one of those things where you can sit at the meeting and hope that there's enough of us here that know what's going on. You all need to be across this. So I must admit, I do sit here with some degree of nervousness still that we're not quite where we need to be on this. So we'll you know, we'll work our way through. When we do our one-on-one sort of 1 year in performance review process for getting to be better boards, these are questions I'll have for you around, are you across these matters, because you need to be. Moving on to the commercial subcommittee, and we've got some minutes. I'm just moving on now. Councillor Delberg, page, put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Commercial subcommittee 199, moved by, thank you, Councillor Courtney, and do we have a seconder for the commercial subcommittee? Councillor Ackland, thank you. We're receiving the unconfirmed minutes first from the 27th of June. Any questions, any debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we've got the forestry update and a recommendation to council. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Courtney. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ackland, do you have these? Thank you. This is to confirm that the block be harvested if economically feasible. This is block 22.02. Any questions in relation to this? Councillor Rutledge.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I might be mixing up my numbers, but is that the block that was Codges was involved? Is that block, or is that a different
I
block?
don't have that level of detail held in my head, but I will get Mr. Lavertis. From memory, they were in the sequence 2-2s, but I think they might be the trees on the margin.
So through the chair, there's a lot of block numbers, but from memory, it's not to do with the Codges. No, this is the section. There's a small area of pine forest just north of the Codges that potentially could be harvested at the same time. So it's a pine block.
Okay, so is that the block that when we were discussing Codges was indicated that it would be very difficult to get at and might not be economically feasible, but would be desirable from our program around wilding pine? Is that the piece we're talking about?
I'm unsure through the chair what discussion you're referring to, but it's a little block just north, and I'm happy to sit with you and show you that.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, thank you. Councillor Skinner? Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm fairly comfortable. I think I know the block we discussed, and I know what Councillor Rutledge is referring to, and if I recall that it was a fairly easily accessible bit of road getting there that wasn't going to affect Codges, but I will chat to Mr. Lavertis to make sure that it's the case, but that's, my memory serves correct. It's all good.
Excellent, thank you. I'll leave you two to just given the sports and recreation crossover, just to make sure you're happy with that.
We had a good look over it.
All right, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions, any debate? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we've got the capital expenditure program, and this is in relation to smart building improvements and Civic House capital. We'll do them both at the same time. Councillor Barker. Moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Noonan. Any questions? Any debate? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Works and Infrastructure Committee on the 29th of June. Unconfirmed minutes moved by Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Skinner. No questions, no debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Aye. Against? Carried.
Just got me.
Sport and Recreation Committee, 4th of July, page 211 to 212 of your agenda. First we'll deal with the receiving the unconfirmed minutes. Happy to move Councillor Skinner, seconded by Councillor Rutledge. This is for the 4th of July. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Reserve Management Plan for Sports Ground Reserves Classification. And we've got a suite of recommendations to Council. Did you want to take, Councillor Skinner, are you happy to take these all in a block, or did you want to break them up?
I'm happy to take them as a block. Just keeping note that the last one was that there was a slight change, as correctly put in here, as a defer of classification of Green Meadows until the urban design strategy. That was the only one that was different.
All right.
To the original recommendation.
All right, so that's
but
been
if around the table and yourself are happy, I'm happy to pass it as a full.
It's full. I'm happy to do that in one go. I can't see any reason why not to. Seconded by Councillor Rutledge. So it's been moved and seconded. Any questions, Councillor Noonan?
Sorry, I think I did read the report at the time. Just regarding the delegation of the Chair of Sports and Rec to approve the survey plan for Green Meadows, does that affect the building area at all, which sits under Community Services, or is it simply the land surrounding?
Ms McDonald.
Through the chair, it won't have any impact on the building project. It's just outlining basically the shape of the land areas.
But I will take it that the land is the land underneath the community Green Meadows Centre.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right, and the whole sports field, so it's the entire
It's
area
the whole
in
lot.
totality.
Okay. So I'm sure you, as you said before, Councillor, we're all grown-ups, and I'm sure you and Councillor Skinner can work cohesively across committees. I'm sure
I'm just
that's
checking
fine.
that it doesn't impact on any of the use that the community centre, no, I can't call it that, the Green Meadows Centre has for the way it operates. I'm sure
okay.
that's fine.
It's a good question. So Ms McDonald, I'll just get you back because this is part of the Reserves Act issue. Is there anything that would be occurring that is proposed to occur? Remember, there's a cafe, there's all sorts of things that are potentially going to be there. Are they all consistent with reserves?
Yes,
the
they've all
Reserves
been
Act?
taken into account, and what's proposed is not to change the use, but to allow the use under the Act and to regularise it.
Okay, thank you. Good question. Ready to put the motion? These are all together, so the whole lot. So all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we've got a Network Tasman easement. Councillor Skinner, the next one. And again, you'll declare an interest declared by Councillor Barker. Are you happy to move the
I'm happy to
recommendation?
recommend.
Thank
that
you.
recommendation forward. Thank you.
Councillor Skinner has moved, seconded by Councillor Rutledge. Any questions, any debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we move on to the Community Services Committee. Councillor Noonan.
Move that the council receives the unconfirmed minutes of the meeting the 13th of July.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Courtney. No questions, no debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Recommendation to Council on the Youth Strategy.
Yes, that the council adopts the youth strategy.
Thank you. Moved. Seconded by Councillor Courtney. Any questions? Any debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Planning and Regulatory Committee, 27th of July. I'm happy to move the unconfirmed minutes from that meeting and from the 27th of July, seconded by Councillor McGurk. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Then we've got some recommendations to Council, and I'm happy to do this in one. The first group, which is that we adopt the terms of reference for the Waimea Inlet group, and that we appoint Councillor Dalberg as our representative. So I'm happy to move that. Could I just get a seconder first? Happy to second, Councillor McGurk. Thank you. Question, Councillor Noonan.
Just got to find the piece of paper now, 226. I had a question regarding the appointment. It says that the committee can appoint someone to that group at any point in time. My question was, and I can't find it, was do the people being appointed for a period of time or for a purpose have any voting rights?
I'm not sure if I've got an officer that can help us with answering that question, and I haven't, because I haven't got the, without referring back, I certainly don't have the previous report with me today, Councillor Noonan, so if you can give us a page number that would help us out, or Linda might have something.
I had a note. I can't find it either, Madam Mayor.
Right.
I just recall when I was reading it, I thought, oh, I wonder about that.
Is it off the
It's
back of some
somewhere
minutes?
else.
It might be back of the minutes. I think you might be at the, I think it might be the next item. I'm wondering if you're thinking about the top of the South Conservation Partnership document. I'll just take a moment to see if you can locate the page. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. 230. There must be something recorded in the minutes. And we are 230.
I think what's happened is I've pulled out the agenda for that meeting, and of course the agenda's not here.
No.
And I made my notes on the agenda. So the terms of reference, it's actually the terms of reference I'm
All right.
seeking.
Oh, we've got them here. Right. So
Just trying to figure out where it might be.
we've got those. Areas of responsibility. Yeah. Yes, they are. It's a very inclusive group. It's just we need to find out how powers to decide. It's got no powers to decide. It's membership, I would say. So the question is, if somebody came along and wanted to be part of this,
Yes.
and included,
Yes.
who's going to decide if they can or they can't? And I think what
No,
you've
no,
heard-
that wasn't my question. There were two things. So on one page it had that the group could include anybody at any point in time for any purpose, basically, if I remember rightly. And then on the other page was the quorum. So what I was looking at is the makeup of the group compared to maybe who's adopted or who's included, and what powers do they have when we haven't appointed them but the group has.
well, we can see.
I know
from
they
the
haven't got a power to decide. That's not the issue.
We're doing our best here, Councillor, without knowing exactly what it is that you're seeking.
Can
I do want to try and get this meeting concluded, but if what we'll do is we'll leave that item. We'll pass that paper across to you, and we'll come back to that one. So that one can just wait, and we'll come back to it. If it was absolutely critical to your decision making, then we can. But we'll come back.
It was something that I was concerned about.
Righty-ho. So we'll leave that one and we'll go on to the next item, which is the proposal for the Top of the South Conservation Partnership Memorandum of Understanding. And I'm happy to move that recommendation to Council, seconded by Councillor McGurk. And I would just say this has got the potential to be one of those things that does create for me that sense of, what's that phrase I had before? I've lost it. The thing that makes your hairs on the back of your neck stand up with excitement about what's possible. This is, I think, has got the opportunity. Te ihi, te wehi, no, I don't think that's right. Te wehi tuaha. You know this. You know this. That's good, isn't it? It's good when you've got someone sitting to your left who's fluent in te reo. Very exciting project. Very, very exciting. Bringing together international philanthropists who have a passion for our natural environment. Bringing iwi together, bringing councils together, and I think it is the start of something that will really set us apart. I really do. So let's all power to this kaupapa. It's a good one. Right, moved and seconded, and anybody else wish to speak to this case, I will put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we'll move on to the Governance Committee. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Delberg. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we have some recommendations to Council. Councillor Barker. Thank you. So both SOIs. Councillor Delberg, you happy to second that? All right. Any questions on these items? These are very important documents, statements of intent. Any debate? Everyone's happy with that? In that case, I'll put it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now we just need to see whether we can resolve this, because I think that's all the public business, isn't it, Linda, apart from just going...
Madam Mayor, this document looks different to the one that I saw. I noticed that on this one it says final draft August. I don't know whether it changed between the 27th of June and August, but it certainly is not quite the document that I saw. That one looks fine, so if that's the adopted one, we'll go with that.
All right, I've got pretty good confidence in the officers that have brought those documents forward. They've been working on this for a long time in terms of the benefits of the Waimea Inlet Group, and Miss Barton is now here, so welcome, Miss Barton. Since you've sprinted from wherever to be here, can you help us out with this? Councillor Noonan's sort of operating a little bit blind here because she hasn't got her documents, but there's something niggling in her mind and we want to resolve that if we can.
Do you want me
yes,
to outline?
Please.
Yes. When I was reading the agenda for the item, and I believe it is this item, it had on the terms of reference for the coordination group that they could at any time appoint someone else to the group or for the purpose of the group, something specific. I can't actually see it on the final document. My question was, if that is the case and they can, did they have any voting rights at that meeting?
So through you, Madam Mayor, my recollection is we changed the provisions of the terms of reference because there was some concern around that. So the latest set that have been attached is the wording that's going forward. and there isn't voting rights as such because anything that is discussed in those groups has to come back to the relevant organisation for sign-off.
Excellent, thank
That's
you very
all
much.
very clear now, thank you.
Right, then it's been moved and seconded. Yes, Linda, I'm going to put it, all those in favour. Aye, against, carried. Now I think that concludes all of our public business, so Linda, thank you very much for being here today, and we wish you well with your UN aspirations, and really enjoy the process. Thank you for being at the meeting. Thank you. So we're ready to go into public excluded business, and we have the resolution to move us through into public excluded. I'm happy to move that recommendation, seconded by Councillor Barker. Any questions? Any debate? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And that takes us into public excluded business. And we'll just allow